welcome to episode 163 of Floating Through Film. This week we are starting the series picked by me, Dany, on Satyajit Ray. One of my favorite directors, one of the first directors I really got into. But it's been a few years since I've really watched a lot of this movie, so I'm excited to do that via the podcast. So let me introduce my co-hosts first, Blake.
What's up?
And Luke.
Hello.
So I guess before I get into this week's topic, that I usually have for my series, let me just ask you overall, what are your thoughts on this director? Luke, I'll start with you.
I mean, I haven't.
I know you guys have seen him before, at least.
I've seen some of the major ones, or like the more popular ones, you know. And I've seen quite a few, and to be honest, it's a bit tough to give my thoughts on them because I haven't seen them since like before the podcast started. It's like 2021, basically. I think was when I watched a lot of the stuff that I've seen from him, and I haven't rewatched anything since starting the podcast. Not for like any reason. It's just like there's a lot of movies out there, and I kind of forgot about them in a way. I'm sorry, but not for any malicious reason though. But yeah, I remember really liking his movies because I watched him before a lot of like a more canonized directors. I think I mentioned last week that I watched Ray before even like Renoir, which is like funny because like Renoir influenced Ray, and I feel like everyone watches Renoir before they watch Ray if they're watching a lot of movies.
Maybe not these days. I don't know.
These days, I think still. At least me thinking of like the film Twitter crowd that I'm always seeing. I feel like it's.
I definitely have not watched Renoir.
Oh yeah, damn. Okay, you should though.
No,
like,
yeah.
what are you doing? Like, damn, depriving yourself over here.
Based on the Southerners, yeah.
No, yeah, but yeah, no, I really like his movies. Like why I'm not really sure. Like I guess I'm gonna figure out what I like about him. I remember his movies being like really simple, but also kind of having the Renoir thing that we talked about, where it's like they're simple. They're like kind of like they have this like realism to them, but they're still like I don't know. There's some like expressive elements to them that make them I don't know transcend that just like label. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to watch through them.
Yeah. What about you, Blake?
No, I love Satyajit Ray also. I got into him pretty early, definitely after you, because you're the one that got me into him, obviously. But I've seen I've seen 18 of his movies.
Damn. You're an expert, bro.
That's okay. I haven't watched him in a long time though either.
I mean, all of us have the same. None of us have watched him really until after the podcast.
Okay, I'm definitely lesser than
we keep saying that. It was 2022, I think. Is when
2022 was my last watch, and I watched The Adversary last. I'm pretty sure again because that's one of the ones I've seen a few times. But no, I do really love Satyajit Ray. I watched him before I had watched a lot of other directors that we would consider masters. Obviously, like. Especially on this series, like I didn't obviously whenever I first watched Ray, I didn't really know what like neorealism was or anything like that. But he definitely has some similarities to what the Italian filmmakers were doing, just showing like I think his is less. I don't know. It is a lot of suffering based. There's a lot of suffering that Apu goes through these movies, but
it's crazy.
It's very depressing.
It's like every time a family member he introduces a family member, it's like, buddy, your time is ticking. But you better watch out.
But he's also got this hope in his movies too. I don't know. They're all very
perseverance with that. So.
And his camera work is really good. Obviously, like. I have forgotten some of the certain shots in these movies, but like there are just some things where I'm just like, damn man, like I think it's the shot of him and his wife watching the movie in this, and then in one of these movies, and then he just like slowly pulls back from what you think is the movie screen into like the car or whatever, and you're just watching her face, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like I don't know, it's just like he makes it. He's doing a lot of interesting things.
Or like the fucking swing shot. From Charulata.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
But no, I do like him a lot. I think he gets better, honestly. Like these are not my favorite from Ray, but they're still great.
Yeah, I think I agree.
So,
yeah. Oh, I mean, they're still really good, though. Like amazing though.
Yeah, and I mean Ravi Shankar, like he composed these first 3 movies. I love Ravi Shankar, like because the music does a lot for these ones, obviously.
It does.
And honestly, the actor for Apu, the adult actor that's in a lot of Satyajit Ray's movies, like he's just got a perfect face for this type of character.
Yeah, he does.
Because I think they even compared him to like someone compared him to Krishna.
Yeah,
and he kind of has that look. I don't know. You get like this whole like this almost like pure, kind of like pure look almost.
He's almost like he feels like clumsy or like kind of
like he feels like
not like kind of like an endearing type of like he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, no, he's definitely doing because they're doing a good job of that. At least at the first part of it, the adulthood we see. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, yeah. Just to get into it, like first, some of the books I'm gonna be using is one is called The Inner Eye by Andrew Robinson. It's like a big book he wrote on Ray, and he also knew Ray too, and so. The first thing is to talk about the pronunciation, because he talks about the pronunciation at the beginning of the book. And first he quotes this Sight and Sound author, Penelope Houston, who says, "It's a critical disadvantage to admire a director's work immensely and to know that one can never quite come to terms with pronouncing his name." I think that's really true. Like, I don't know, I think it's like easier just to even appreciate a director when you like know it's like you're pronouncing their name right, you know? Just like I don't know, just like some kind of psychological thing. So like, just to kind of say how we're gonna say it, because we've been all saying Ray, and that's basically how most people in the West say it, which is he even says is actually a perfectly fine pronunciation. So let me just read what he writes. He says, "For readers of this book who wish to know the Bengali pronunciation of Satyajit Ray," he says, and he kind of spells it out, but the closest pronunciation he says is Shotajit Ray, and he spells it Rye. Is about as close as one can get. Almost every S in Bengali is a soft S. Most Indians who are not from Bengal will pronounce the name Satyajit Ray, and that's what we've been saying. And his second name, just as the Westerner would tend to do. Either pronunciation seems to me equally acceptable outside of Bengal. And so, I mean, I think even Ray, like if you see in interviews, like when he's doing the West, he'll just say his name is Satyajit Ray too.
Okay.
Like, but it's kind of if you want to know like, it's like basically because it's hard to, like we don't pronounce words the same way in Bengal, like, you kind of do like a translation thing to make it easier to pronounce. Even like to people outside of, he's saying even Indians outside Bengal still say Ray, you know. But
have you mentioned that you're Indian, by the way, on the pod?
I think we've mentioned it before.
And
I feel like picking Money Call, like some of the directors have picked. I don't
you
know.
haven't picked Money Call. You picked a couple.
I
you
picked
like a movie from him.
Yeah, I picked one of our top. Yeah, never mind.
This guy's putting off Money Call.
He is.
I don't know.
He's scared. He's sure.
What?
Under
Okay.
pressure.
Okay.
Is he like Ray more than Call?
Damn, why you have to pit him against
I don't know. You picked him first. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I gotta do that with you. Someone. I'll have to think of that.
Oh no! I should have done that. I actually did.
You like Altman more than Rivette?
Well, I hadn't watched Rivette when I did Altman.
That's true. Okay. To get back to it. But
Give me.
No, but Ray is actually one of the, like I said earlier, he's one of the, basically he was the first director I really got into outside of Kubrick. Like Kubrick and him were kind of the first directors. And they're really similar to me in terms of like, I don't know, this is something I've just been thinking in general. It's like, why is it the more I learn about films, I kind of just like, actually don't like films as much as a whole. If that even makes sense though.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
And it's mainly because you learn kind of what a film is, or like the styles, themes, or whatever you're kind of looking for in a film. And that's, in a way, like for me, what I find so great about studying films is like, what am I looking for in a film? Why do I find it so exciting? Like why am I getting these emotional reactions out of it versus like doing something else with my time? And just to go back to the Ray Kubrick thing, like the reasons those directors now, even in hindsight, and even kind of at the time, like that stood out to me so much is basically they controlled all their aspects of the filmmaking. Like, I mean, Kubrick, everyone knows he was like a fucking maniac about it and stuff, and like took years and years to make his films. But really, like, even on the Kubrick level, like Ray was actually like kind of on his own level, because he wrote the scripts, not for these movies, but eventually we're gonna see like even these next movies. He composes the music, he does the camera direction, he does the poster designs, and like he's basically making these movies like, especially in the 60s and 70s, like 2 to 3 years apart. Sometimes even less. So like Kubrick's in all this time, and that kind of goes to like to go back to like why I like find films like just over time, like the films I've picked and the directors I've picked, is like basically that kind of controlling every aspect of the film of like making it, from script to like after it comes out. And that's different than basically a lot of movies we see in theaters, just by design. Most movies that come out aren't like that. They're not made by... They don't have a director basically kind of directing, like doing their job really from beginning to end. Most movies are not like that. Like to the point where I believe like they should be called different things almost, But I guess they still use
like amusement parks.
I was gonna say supervisor.
Supervisor, yeah. Like I mean, of course, Bresson's version would be cinematography versus the cinematograph, but
that's like so confusing to me.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you could pick a little different.
No, cinematography versus cinema, basically. That one makes more sense, right? But he's saying cinema's the bad one.
Oh, see, that's like that's so weird.
Because think about it, he's saying cinema's like the classical one, like the one, traditional one.
Yeah.
But cinematograph actually makes you think of more of like the beginning of cinema, right? Like what it actually is, the more pure, like what it actually just capturing.
I'm still.
You can kind of think of it like that, but
I'll still confuse that though.
I feel like it's not that confusing, but anyway.
I'm gonna forget about it.
So back to Ray. So yeah, this course of the series, I'm going to talk more about just like kind of stuff I like about him and stuff, and the movies too. But this week, because the Apu Trilogy, like if I'm being honest, I still coming back to these movies. It actually reframed like how I thought about him a lot, based on like how I was thinking about him 5 years ago. Because like 5 years ago, I probably would have said Pather Panchali was my least favorite, and like maybe the other two were tied for my favorite. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I have to look at my ratings, but I think that's changed now.
Honestly, I think Pather Panchali is my favorite too now.
I never said that, but
okay, but I'm saying like it changed. It changed.
It might be my favorite.
Because I think Apur Sansar was my favorite.
Yes.
I think Aparajito was my favorite before. It still might be my favorite, honestly, too.
No, I'm not saying they're like bad now. They're still great films.
They all work as one.
That's actually a thing. That's the first thing. And that's kind of going to go into my topic this week, which is not going to be a specific Ray topic, but like that phrase you just used, they all work as one. I think that's basically the theme of the whole movie, or the trilogy too, as well as like. Okay, so just get my topic this week. I've mentioned this concept a few times before over past episodes, but in Indian aesthetics, there's this concept called Rasa. I don't know if you guys remember me talking about this.
No.
And it's basically like it's a very, very hard term to describe.
How do you spell it?
Rasa. I'm kind of curious what Google might say, because I actually don't know.
What does Google AI say?
There's a Rasa AI software.
No, look up Rasa Indian aesthetics or something.
Indian aesthetics.
Because I was about to read. This is basically what my topic is this week. Is basically trying to define this term in it.
It literally means juice, essence, or taste. Sorry, the juice is hilarious because like,
the juice.
But basically, the other two things too, essence or taste.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of a good way. Taste is kind of the closest.
The juice.
The juice.
This is the juice.
It's got the juice.
It might be the literal term is like it actually comes from that though, like juice from like the juice from the fruit is kind of like the essence or something,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how that transferred, but yeah, taste is actually kind of where this term comes from in Rasa, but. So this was actually a year or two ago. I was reading a lot about this concept, and it really influenced like basically how I think about films. Because so I'm gonna go through some of these definitions over time of how different Indian theoreticians basically kind of define this term, because I think it's like such a good term in terms of they were really interested in why people react to art the way they do, and the main difference like. Because the simple term you want to use when you think of Rasa is emotion, right? It's like you have an emotion to an artwork,
like indescribable feeling.
Yeah,
that's what this says.
Like the one of the books I've read, and I haven't even finished it. It's called a Rasa Reader, and he basically goes through like kind of the history of Rasa aesthetics, and he makes the point at the beginning of the book how like. The way he puts it is, quote, "What makes the translation of Indian emotion terms harder than it has to be is the impoverishment of contemporary English idiom for talking about feelings." And basically what he's saying is, like, basically English the English language, like compared to Sanskrit, is very poor at having like basically words for emotions, and he uses like the example of like comedy, like the comic rasa he talks about, and he talks about how like in English there's basically no word to describe the feeling of something being funny, and he says amusement is the closest to it, but it's not really the same as like the feeling of something really funny. But he's like basically that kind of like trying to describe emotions like that. But not necessarily emotions, because this is where I'm trying to get to. Is rasa is not only emotions, but it's how emotions are quote unquote manifested via art, via the kind of aesthetic elements in art. And this is a quote from a different author, David Shulman. He says, quote, "Rasa in Sanskrit poetics is not an emotion. It is rather the idea of an emotion, depersonalized through the process of conventional observations. The aesthetics of court poetry are aesthetics of distance and ideation, rather than immediacy and feeling." And basically, almost like rasa is like emotion, but it's like detachment via art. You know, it's kind of like, you know, it's not personalized emotion. You know, it's a detached emotion. And I've kind of talked about the idea like through, you know, the concept of presentation versus representation and Money Call and stuff. But this idea of basically like why we're kind of drawn to these various emotions that are not direct emotions, but they kind of feel the same way as emotions in art, you know. And to read a couple of quotes literally from these kind of ancient Indian critics. One of them is named Kuntaka. He says, "Rasa for Sri Shankaka would seem then to be a theory of perfect mimesis, where the viewer is not equating an image with a thing, but simply seeing the thing itself, so long as the play lasts or the painting is visible." And that's kind of interesting to me, because I've kind of talked about that idea like over the last. I've mentioned it here every now and then, like of the idea of like trying to make an artwork feel like reality, even though obviously it's fake, right? Yeah. So like, where's that kind of? How do you do that? Yeah. You know, and like that's basically through these processes of like you know, with neorealism with Rosling, you know, like we talked about the different styles of neorealism, how you can kind of produce that. Yeah. But that idea of the feeling, you know, I talked about neorealism and we've talked about film too. I think it goes really well with this concept of rasa in any aesthetics. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I was listening to this lecture. They did this. I guess it was on YouTube a few years ago. They called it Satyajit Ray Sedentary. I guess it'd been 100 years since he was born, maybe, if that makes. I don't know when Sedentary was born, but it was with Dudley Andrew, and he's the guy that wrote like he translated the Bazin What is Cinema books, and did the intro for it and stuff, and he made some like I'm gonna mention a quote that he mentions about Bazin makes about Pather Panchali when we start that one. But there was a different guy on there named Prakash Younger, and he talks about he basically talks about how Pather Panchali uses this concept of rasa in the film, and I was like, damn, this is really good, because like, you know, as I watched it this week for the episode, you can really see basically like the emotions that are being produced like in us, or this kind of feelings that we're getting. They're not direct emotions through any of the characters directly, right? It's not like through like identification through any one of the characters. Like the same way we talked about, you kind of mentioned this like with the Broken Blossoms, with that critic you were talking about, where he says like something about like decentralization of the characters on screen and stuff.
It's like anti-expression. I think. What was
anti-perspective, maybe. I don't know.
I forgot what I was saying.
But basically this idea of like there's no like central character to kind of
anti-classicism.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So let me mention some of the things he says about Pather Panchali, and via this concept of rasa. Especially because I'm going to mention this throughout when we talk about Pather Panchali specifically, this idea of contrast, because you're going to see it, like you're going to notice it immediately, and it's like it just goes so well with like this feeling we get through the movie where you're like, this is a really depressing movie if you talked about it, but then as you watch it, you're like, it's not as depressing as if you were talking about it. And that's mainly because of the images and the music. Basically, the things of it that are not the words that if you were talking about it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not only that; it's also like the and the word is contrast, because like you'll notice like a really happy scene will happen, but you'll never dwell on it because like the next scene will almost be like a direct undercut or something, you know.
Yeah.
And so what he says is Rasa is developed in spectators through process where characters are repeatedly contrasted with one another, just as 6 notes of a raga are contrasted in an alap. And like you'll see that throughout this movie, like the kind of emotion is not being created through any of the characters directly, but this kind of contrasting of the various characters, you know. And then he says another concept of rasa is choiceless awareness, is a necessary precondition for rasa oriented spectators. And their liberty rules of engagement, basically saying like freedom to be grabbed by whatever moves them. I love that. Like that kind of goes earlier what I was saying about the anti-classicist stuff. Like this idea of like you're being presented with stuff and like you're not being exactly told what emotion to feel. You know, it's kind of just arising as you're watching the whole thing play out as a whole. You know, and then he also directly mentioned the quote from the essay we did last week of the ontology of the photographic image, where I mentioned the nature at last more than imitates the art, she imitates the artist. Yeah. Because like that goes very similar with this idea of rasa and choiceless awareness, where it's like nature is more open than just like a kind of direct representation of art, you know. So yeah, that's kind of all I had to say about Rasa. I'll say a little bit more like hopefully throughout the series too. Because you'll kind of notice, like, Ray's different movies will have these almost, like, different, like, kind of emotional states, like, each one has, you know. Like, Charulata next week, you'll see kind of has, like, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but, like, this kind of love, I don't know, like,
they're cousins?
Longing. Are they cousins?
Yeah, are they cousins in the movie?
Cousin-in-law?
I think they're cousins, right?
I forgot. But they never actually do anything. They never actually do anything. So.
They love each other, though.
It's not love.
Unhappy he convinces... Oh, wait, no, it's his cousin.
Cousin-in-law.
Yeah, so it's cousin-in-law.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, because it was...
I mean, it's still...
It's weird, but it's, I mean...
Yeah,
stuff like that happens. But especially more like the ancient you go, like stuff like you'll see shit like that in a lot of their stories. Because, like, people just, like, interacted with way less people back then.
Yeah.
But, it makes it way less weird that it's going on.
I mean, but we are in Arkansas, so it kind of...
That's true.
We are kind of the experts, I guess, in a certain way.
They wouldn't have that law, though.
It would just be cousins.
Yeah. People get kind of weird down here.
Is it still like it's still legal here? I'm pretty sure that's what makes it like that's
it's legal here.
I don't know. I don't know if that's still legal, but like I feel like it was the longest state to make it legal.
Illegal to marry your cousin in Arkansas.
Damn, you gonna put that in your search history?
No, it is not legal to marry your first cousin in Arkansas.
I know that you have to be careful in Arkansas though, because I do know someone whose cousin was on a dating app and they accidentally hooked up with one of their other cousins.
Oh!
Because they didn't know each other.
I'm taking that to the grave. I don't know why they're telling people
exactly.
that.
I don't know why they told
Not even the CIA can get that out of them. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Apparently it's legal in Alabama, though.
Of course.
And Florida and Georgia.
Oh, okay. Arkansas is the worst.
Liberal Arkansas, you know. No, we're not.
Okay. To keep with this kind of concept of rasa, like this kind of basically the emotional state that's manifested by art, that's not just emotion itself, I guess is one way to put it. And the ways that happen is, I wanted to mention, first, I mentioned this with the Southerner we reviewed last week, but I wanted to mention again, because we're reviewing Pather Panchali, that Ray basically, he wrote I've been reading some of like his short articles he wrote, like years later, and he basically says the Southerner was like a great influence on this movie specifically.
Yeah.
And you kind of see it, just like the family dynamics and the kind of way they interact with each other.
The daily life nature of the movie.
Daily life nature, and then even like the huge storm that comes at one point and stuff. But then to go with that, like I wanted to read, because there's this, and to kind of get Luke on my side, I have to read this great Rivette quote on the Southerner.
Okay.
And apparently, I guess he was telling this to, I forgot where I found this actually, but this was Rivette talking about the Southerner, and this is it's just an amazing quote too, because it's really like it's him talking about film, like why films are great, and it goes well with this movie, but just kind of how I agree with what my favorite films in general. So he's talking about the Southerner. He says, "Here, man is at the center of his universe. He comes to rest there, to confine in it. To speak of a banal and flatly edifying script, to regret the absence of dramatic progression, all that is flatly absurd. Man in the midst of the world, of his seasons and his whims, is the subject of the Southerner. It proves once again that the word script has no meaning, that there is no script, and never will be. A film is people walking, embracing, drinking, bumping into each other, men who act before our eyes, and oblige us to accompany them in their actions, to share their lives, to participate in the thousand little incidents that make up existence, and which interest us henceforth equally. Here Renoir joins Flaherty. Their purpose is the same, even by opposite paths. One puts the actors in touch with the concrete realities of their role, forcing them to live this feigned existence for its capture by the camera. The other considers men, his occasional performers, as actors, and has them play their lives, instead of simply living it in front of the lens, reconstructing each of their customary gestures with a view precisely to its inscription on the film. Both realize the subtle mixture of artifice and reality is necessary for an expressive transcription of the world. Otherwise, we obtain only an impersonal, bloodless copy, from which all the weight of the concrete, which was the living justification, has escaped, without being replaced by structures which will justify it in this universe, of which there are the foundations, and where nothing is of the existence except through them, and will give by artifice the same total, the same weight of the concrete and undeniable evidence as the basic reality."
Damn,
it's like amazing quote, especially where he's like, there's like I'll send it, yeah. Where especially like there's no script, there never will be. A film is people walking and breaking.
No, oh my god.
Like I mean, like this whole thing is amazing. I could go forever.
That's good foreshadowing.
Okay.
To the Rivette series.
No, we'll have to bring it up in the Rivette series.
Yeah, because it's a very good way to describe his films. That's all I'll say.
But like just like why films, a certain kind of film in general, that like I was saying earlier, why like when I say the more I study film, it's like I just don't like most films in a way, because like most films are not like about this. You know, they do have scripts and they're trying to tell a certain thing or whatever. But especially that there's so many things I could go with, like when he's comparing Renoir and Flaherty, like basically coming to the same idea from two different directions, like where he says Renoir makes actors almost become like real men, and then like Flaherty from the opposite way makes real men become actors, but they're trying to achieve the same thing of reality.
Flaherty's like the documentary.
Yeah, the documentary.
Right? Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I should have made that clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then basically trying to create a whole new reality that's as the same as he says is the basic reality. Because like I think that's like especially the part where he's talking about the no script. Like first of all, Ray didn't even have a script for this movie. He said like most of it was in his head, and they were just like filming like moments and stuff. I think Ray Blake mentioned that, and that's like basically what most of this movie is. And then outside of the Southerner, Ray's talked to us multiple times. The reason that he decided to make this movie, like that gave him the final push, was he was in the UK. He was in London because he used to work at an advertising agency before he started in film. So I think he only started directing this movie when he was like 38 or 39 or something. Which is kind of late.
Still kind of young.
Still kind of young for sure in film anyway. But he basically had another career in advertising, and he was in London, and he watched To Seek As the Bicycle Thieves. Okay. And he basically realized like he could make that kind of film, you know.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that when we did Bicycle Thieves a few years ago, but like it was basically that was inspiring for a lot of filmmakers throughout the world. You know, like we can't do the Hollywood stuff in a big studio, but you can do this. You know, you can go film on the streets and like just take a camera and film. You know, even get your sound in post and stuff. But let me read because he wrote this to his I guess he wrote this in a letter to his friend or something after he saw Bicycle Thieves. And it basically kind of talks about how he's going to approach his own films too, where he says, quote, "The entire conventional approach, as exemplified by even the best American British films, is wrong. Because the conventional approach tells you that the best way to tell a story is to leave out all except those elements which are directly related to the story. While the master's work clearly indicates that if your theme is strong and simple, then you can include 100 little apparently irrelevant details, which, instead of obscuring the theme, only help to intensify it by contrast. And in addition, create the illusion of actuality better." And like especially that last word. First of all, you kind of mentioned Ray as being very simple. Yeah. I kind of like that too, because like some people can see that as an insult.
No, yeah, definitely.
But there's like even like Renoir has a certain simplicity, but Ray has a different simplicity, I think, even than Renoir. But there's something similar about like how direct they are in just capturing things, especially in these films too, and just like kind of letting you get what you want from them. But but that also that part of basically capturing all these details, basically these little moments of life, and that enhances the theme itself. You know, there's nothing directly being like some story telling you how to feel. Like there's no like I feel like Apur Sansar is now. I mean, just to get into why I think like it's my least favorite now, because it has the most of these kind of story, especially at the last
I could see
part where now it feels like we're actually watching like a story with like, oh, we have to hit these beats now, you know, just to have a satisfying conclusion. Versus like the first two movies feel like we're just watching almost like just like life moments happening, and we don't even know when the next moment's going to jump or he even says that word to intensify it by contrast.
It's almost like Ozu-esque. It's like almost about like time's like forward march, but also like how like relentless, like unrelenting time can be.
Yes, especially that kind of that theme. I think he's much more like pictorial, like more poetic, I guess, than Ozu is.
Depends what you mean.
No, Ozu is obviously very poetic. I mean, like
I don't like that. Yeah.
I guess style is they're very different.
No, yeah,
that's why I wouldn't say Ozu. That's why I like Renoir.
It's just a similar idea. Ozu.
Yes.
They both have that idea, which I feel like.
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, I think that is there here. And then before we get into the movies directly, I have to read first of all Kurosawa, because he loved Pather Panchali. And he might have been one of the reasons I got into Ray in the first place too.
Oh no, he has some fire. I know there's a quote about it. Isn't like, or you can read the one where it's like the stars and the moon or whatever.
That was him just talking about Ray, where he's like, not to see in the cinema of rays, to not have seen the sun and the stars or something like that.
Like not living on this earth and not seeing
the sun and the moon or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I forgot the exact quote, but this one he's just talking about Pather Panchali. Because it's first of all, it's interesting that he said. When Satyajit Ray died, he was really sad, but then he saw Kiarostami's first film, and he was glad that there was someone like to take up Ray's place.
Do you agree?
Like honestly, watching these, I had never like at the time I thought less so, but I could see some of what he's talking about, especially with how he directs kids and stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
But this is Kurosawa and Pather Panchali. He says, "I can never forget the excitement in my mind after seeing it. I've had several more opportunities to see the film since then, and each time I feel more overwhelmed. It is the kind of cinema that flows with the serenity and nobility of a big river. People are born, live out their lives, and then accept their deaths. Without the least effort and without any sudden jerks, Ray paints his picture. But its effect on the audience is to stir up deep passions. How does he achieve this? There's nothing irrelevant or haphazard in cinematographic technique. In that lies the secret of its excellence." And I mean, that goes to what you were saying about the simplicity, right? It's basically like... It's almost like to kind of achieve a kind of simple. Bresson also can be described simple if you're not like in a good way, in a bad way. You know,
on the I know what you're saying.
Like people can say like there's just nothing there.
You know? Nothing. It's like boring or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And like this movie gets
people or saying he's minimalist. You would say like
I see Ray wouldn't get the minimalist.
Yeah, people say like, but people say Bresson's like minimalist, but then like what he's doing actually really is
but it's like it's very hard to achieve that kind of serenity through simplicity, or basically achieve that simplicity, that feeling of simplicity, I guess.
Yeah.
And Ray does it like basically. I guess that the theme of these movies to me is basically contrast and how he creates that emotion of life. I guess I forgot what the example place earlier about like that whole. something about being the whole trilogy being a whole. But yeah, that's basically like I forgot what he said.
They're all one.
Yeah,
It's one movie.
But all of them fit as like one.
They all work as one.
Yeah, they all work as one. But they all work as one to me, like through contrast of the various characters, the various like, basically, one major theme of these movies to view them as a trilogy is to view of, basically India transitioning from its traditional past under colonialism to its now modern independence. And you can see that through basically this boy Apu, and
in the generations.
The generations.
So like, what's like the deal with that though?
Like, what do you mean when?
Like, the history of India.
So I mean, so they gained independence. I want to say right after World War II.
So were they like?
Exactly.
So were they just like a British colony?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
were they like still in like were they like before? Like, when did British take them over? The British did.
Sometime in the 1600s.
It was like 16 or 17.
Wait, so like were they India before that?
No, basically India as a nation was invented by the British. It was the India. They put together put together this land called India.
They were just
but what
was India, it before that? Yeah.
I mean, there were various kingdoms and stuff, and there has been like basically like Sanskrit was a language that was cross-cultural, you could say, throughout the Indian regions. Because, like, all these... I mean, a lot of people knew Sanskrit throughout these various kingdoms and stuff. Yeah. So they're just, like, different Indian cultural things, but it's not in the way a nation would be today. But that's true with most nations that aren't modern.
I still remember the story of Alexander the Great reaching India for the first time, because the story goes that he beat the first king of India, because I guess at the time or whatever there were like 5 great kingdoms in what we consider India now. Yeah. And after he beat the first king, he was going to continue on, but the Indian king said he had such a hard time beating him, and the Indian king said, everyone behind me is just as hard and they're going to fight just as hard as I did. And then Alexander the Great gave up. That's like a legend. But
that's also like his soldiers were starting to give up on him.
Well, they got to India. They got to India and saw these fucking elephants. They're like, "What the hell?" Like, no.
Yeah. Didn't Aristotle teach Alexander the Great?
Was it Aristotle? I know there was some philosopher that's.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Aristotle because it's like Plato was the student of Socrates. Aristotle was the student of Plato, and I'm pretty sure it was he. Then Aristotle taught Alexander the Great, which is kind of crazy.
Is that real? I don't know.
Aristotle.
I can see that. I can see him learning by Aristotle.
Alexander the Great.
But
yeah, he was the tutor of Alexander the Great for 3 years, from 13 to 16.
Okay. Okay. To go back to Pather Panchali. I said earlier there was a Bazin quote that him talking about Pather Panchali, which is also great. I was going to read. So quote. Transposed to the West, I believe this film would not be of any less interest. If one of the modern criteria of cinema resides in the novelistic characteristic of its racy, which I don't know exactly what that word means, that's what I'm really interested in, its capacity beyond that of the objectivity of the image to marry the subjectivities of language, then Satyajit Ray is a filmmaker you have to love. First of all, we talked about that last week. Basically, the idea of the objectivity of the image has Bazin believed in it. To marry that with, quote, the subjectivities of language is kind of the combination that Bazin loves so much about what modern cinema could do. I think that's a great way to describe this film, too, because I'll point out a few moments that I realize this happens, and this happens a lot with the music, and I think Ray's doing it on purpose, where we'll see, like, a dramatic moment or something that'll happen between the characters or something, like when she steals something or something like that. And like we'll see the conflict happen, like if we were watching a normal movie, happen on screen, and then almost there'll be like a detachment that happens, and we get the more like, you could say I don't want to say cosmic, but this kind of universal happening that's like the film outside of just the characters happening on screen kind of thing. And it's more like poetic, it's like a less kind of depressing way to say it, less melodramatic. And it kind of goes back and forth and like constantly throughout the movie. But yeah, I think we can.
You gonna read the Truffaut's quote on the movie?
What was this quote?
I don't want to see a movie of peasants eating with their hands because he walked out apparently.
He walked out like super early.
Yeah, that was a crazy quote, dude. Like,
no, honestly, he came from like the right place because I actually think like okay, even I don't know where he's coming from, but like for a long time, this is like even now, like if I was recommending Ray movies, these would not be the first ones I recommend, even though we're doing these first, because that's how people see it in a way. It's like they see these, even if they watch the trilogy, they'll be like, oh, like I kind of get it, you know, like, you know, it's like this early post-colonial films about like entering modernism, you know, out of poverty. This kind of like, you know, like we said, they're simple, but
although Truffaut did eventually like rewatch the movie and was like, actually, I'm wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn, you could have said that. What?
No, it's just a crazy quote. It's a crazy quote.
Funny as shit.
Okay, what is
No, but
funny.
like I can see that's basically where he's coming from. Is that idea of like basically this kind of poverty, thorough worldism, basically of like sensationalism. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but like basically milking poverty to make like kind of. I mean, Oscar movies will do this shit all the time. You know. And like, first of all, none of these movies are even close to that. That's the whole point I'm trying to say. Is like, like the subject matter could make you think that initially, especially this first one. But especially by the time you get to Aparajito and especially Aparajito, it's like it's nothing like that. You know, like that quote applies nothing to it.
People that say this movie is just depressing, they're missing the point. Because
Even
I feel like
one,
the point well, yeah, for this one especially also, like does this one you can feel the childhood joy in life that both the kids have in this, just like the joy in living in certain moments, obviously. So, they obviously go through ridiculously tough, or Apu especially goes through ridiculously tough shit. But there's like I think there's a literal quote in Aparajito where he's saying something about his novel or whatever, and it's about this kid that's been through all this shit that never lost his joy in life or whatever, or his hope in life, and that's kind of what these movies are kind of about.
Yes, and to keep on that, but also to go like, I mentioned this a little earlier, and maybe to keep this frame as we start. Actually, I wanted to ask you specifically about the movies too, but to keep this frame in mind of this like entering modernism that was happening in India, you know, this kind of entering, being their own country, you know, going from the village to the city life, like that kind of, like I think that goes exactly what you're saying, but this hope in the movie, like, but it's trying to be realistic. It's like it's still showing the death of a father, you know, in a way that can symbolize the death of this old traditional. Yeah. You would have in the past, you would have just followed your father's job of being a priest. Now in this new modern world, you can actually choose your own path. You know, that's totally different. But at the same time, it's not just all happy. You have to leave your mother. You know, and we'll talk about that, especially in Aparajito. That was like a huge theme of why Ray loved. Basically, that book, the second book, is like that theme of basically having to leave your mother behind, but almost like it having to be a good thing in a way. You know. Yeah. But to stick with Pather Panchali, let me ask you before we go directly. Is like, I know Luke, you said it's your favorite movie now. Is there anything more you want to say about like why?
I mean, I think you may have already said it. I don't remember exactly. Just the way it kind of like it has all these like opposites of life, where it's like for all the depressing moments, contrast. Like all the depressing moments, like there's like beautiful or like happy moments or joyous moments. Like it's kind of like he's like presenting both in a way, and I really like that. It doesn't. I don't know if it really favors one over the other either, but it's just like it's a beautiful film, beautifully expressive. Like I like the way it like kind of like I don't know establishes kind of like a place, like the way it establishes kind of like the environment too. It's just a beautiful film.
What about you, Blake? Is there anything?
No, yeah. I mean, I love Pather Panchali also. Probably my second favorite now. It's between this one and Aparajito for my first favorite. I don't know. But, echoing what you guys said, just like, it really is a beautiful movie. But the little musical interludes that you were kind of mentioning before, like, I didn't realize those the first time I watched this, obviously, which was like 2019. Like, I was vibing with the music, obviously. But it's really fun, like watching where he puts them in, honestly, because like I think the longest one in this movie is probably about 4 minutes, because I remember it distinctly happening right after probably the happiest moment in the movie, and it leads to the darkest shit like happening right after that. But it's just like a 4 minute long moment of you just watching Ravi Shankar or watching like just these little like water skippers or whatever on water to Ravi Shankar's just raga,
yes,
and you're like, oh my god, like like you feel like you're in heaven almost for a little bit, which is kind of how you almost feel like maybe Apu's feeling at that time, and then the storm starts to come in right after that. And I don't know, it's there are so many great things in this movie, but it is like, I'm glad that you chose the Southerner for last week, because that does put some of it into perspective of what he's trying to do. Also, just like, he's trying to show the reality of kind of the situations that these people live through, but that's not completely without hope. Like, this is life, but it's not hopeless, you know? I don't know. Yeah. It is beautiful. But that's also why I said you have to watch all three also, because, like, if you just watch Pather Panchali, the ending can definitely leave you with a sour taste. Same with Aparajito. But that's also just life too. Like, I think even in all three of these movies, there are characters that say like, "Oh, you have to watch your parents die." Like, that's just just a part of life. Like, it's, I don't know. It's different than like I mentioned, I think at the beginning of this movie, like of this podcast, I hadn't watched Italian neorealism before this, and I still haven't watched a ton of it. But watching that, it's even different from that, because like Bicycle Thief is just like ultra depressing. Like,
it doesn't have more of these like musical poetic kind of moments.
And it doesn't have those. But
you can 100% still see the kind of
the influence.
The influence of the location shooting, and kind of still getting like maybe low exposure, like basically shooting what you can get kind of thing.
Yeah, and this movie just has a childhood joy to it that I do like a lot.
Yes,
it's got a lot of energy.
No, it does. So. It actually does, and that's kind of what we're gonna get into. I think we can go ahead and get into the movie. First of all, I do, like you mentioned, the theme. I love the theme of this movie, like the musical theme. But then we kind of, and also this is another thing. I'm gonna mention her quotes throughout the series. It's funny because I found these two books that were written on Ray that I hadn't heard of. One was called "Failed Masculinities: The Men in Satyajit Ray's Films," and one was called "Gendered Modernity in Indian Cinema: The Women in Satyajit Ray's Films." And I didn't know, like, I just thought they were just two different books, and I had them in my, like, PDFs and stuff, and I just started reading, like, some of the chapters, and then I only realized later they were written by the same author. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, like, you know. So I'll be, like, mentioning some of her quotes. Her name is Devapriya Sanyal, especially, like, in Next Week and stuff, but,
no, continue, sorry.
Especially the failed masculinities part, because it's, like, that's, like, such a theme in all of Ray's movies.
Yes.
Because, and I'm going to mention the exact quote a little later, but the reason I'm bringing it up right now is, like, for the first almost, like, 10 minutes to 15 minutes, we basically don't see any of the guys. I'm trying to think when we see... Yeah. It's basically for the first 14 minutes, we only see the woman. Like, we see the daughter. She's, like, stealing the fruit. We basically only see women almost the whole first 14 minutes. And, like... You could say, like, that, you know, he's, like, interesting village life, but he's also, like, kind of showing you, like, basically with this kind of new India, and he's going to enhance this theme throughout the later films. Like, basically there's, like, a failure in Indian masculinity to kind of, like, live up to what they should be almost, you know? And, like, it's interesting, like, when we first see the man in this movie. Like, the father in this movie, he basically doesn't provide the whole time. Mm-hmm. You know, he's almost so casual about it. You know, he, like, leaves for, like, months at a time. Like, doesn't write to her. And it's like, we're basically only getting her perspective, you know, how she's trying to deal with it. Yeah. And the way he basically never tries to help her at all. And we'll kind of... And you could even say this is a criticism of Apu, too, in the next movie, of, like, how he ignores her the same way. You know, leaving her behind. But that idea of, like... kind of like what women have to do in this kind of new world too to make up for this basically this modern world, you know, what women have to do, basically more work almost in a way, and just like have more burdens. I think Ray's a good job. We'll see that in the future movies too, is why I'm bringing it up. And so we see like
this one's an interesting mixture though, because he's technically in his old life at this point still. like he's not even in his new life. He's still a wandering priest, which this you could definitely say is just part of the old world still. Like she would have been doing this stuff in the and like pre-modernization too.
Honestly, that is true. That's true. Like you could say she would have been doing that, but it's even worse now because like he has less of a audience, like basically
less of an audience,
like
and he has options to change.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it worse.
Like she's the one that has to bring it up. Like we should go to the city.
Yes, the wife asks him multiple times, like to make their situation better. Essentially,
like she's thinking about daily reality.
Yes,
like, he's thinking almost like kind of like you could say this religious.
Yes, 100%.
The kind of negative aspects of traditionalism and religions. You know, like
it's interesting because it's definitely shown somewhat negative, but I do think Ray has a love for this type of just journeyman also, like this type of man that believes in religion this much that he will actually just wander around trying to help people, essentially.
He clearly is not like hating on this guy.
I don't think he hates him.
But I think the main thing is like he has a wife and
yes.
Like it would be different if he didn't have a wife and kids.
Yes.
I think that's in the main differences and maybe where we see in like the world of Apu, the last movie, where you could say Apu is a little different, is like it's funny because like we see him have this long scene where he's like talking with his friend. He's like, I'm always gonna be this kind of wanderer, this freedom, and then like the second he gets married, he changes.
Yeah,
you know, like where he's like now he's like trying to get a job and he's trying to. So you could say like maybe he's a little different than his father.
And I mean the father definitely changes after the daughter dies for sure too.
That's true. They do end up moving.
Yeah. He's still a priest or whatever, but
yeah,
they do. Yeah. He does try to like get an actual job.
Yeah, that's true. But it's more like in this movie, he's basically a nothing almost.
I honestly, you should send me those PDFs for the fail things because I'd probably read those because like that's something I love in Satyajit Ray's movies because I had forgotten like I didn't forget about the mom in this movie obviously, but she has so many great moments in the first two movies of just like her. Just vocalizing like, I have dreams too.
Yes.
But I can't do anything about them because I'm literally, I've married a poor man basically, or I got forced. I don't know if it's ever said they got forced to marry, but
no.
But she married a poor man. Now her like she's not allowed to dream anymore. Basically, like
but
she
not
has
only
to
that,
provide.
like her husband's clearly not even thinking about that.
Yes,
of her, you know, even as that, like basically he just sees her as this person.
Yeah, and there's a moment. One of my favorite moments. I think it's Aparajito where he's basically where Apu's basically just saying like, or maybe no, this one might be actually Apur Sansar where he's talking to his wife because he's basically just like. This marriage was forced on me. I didn't want any of this. And it's just like, you're saying this to a woman who literally is forced to marry you because at the end of the day, she would be not suitable for marriage.
Yes.
Like, you were literally her only option.
Yeah.
And now she's stuck.
Like, she doesn't understand it.
Like, he doesn't understand. He's not looking at it from her perspective. And that's something in Charulata that will also, like, a quote that she says in that, like, life is a matter of perspectives or whatever. I think she says in that movie. But
honestly, we'll see kind of that... honestly, like, and part of the timelines are important too for next week. The same kind of theme we're talking about is like next week we're doing the big city and
Charulata.
Yeah, Charulata, and just the time periods between those two movies, where Charulata is like I think late 1800s. So like basically what women were allowed to do at that time. You know, she barely leaves the house in that movie.
Yeah, but
still he gives her kind of a more freedom, just like in what she's able to write and compared to what she's able to do, even at her like closed location via writing. That's why she likes it so much in a way in reading. And then big city is like she's actually that's like modern times at the time. So now she's actually working. And not only working, like how does a husband deal with the fact that she's now making more money than him and like he doesn't have a job and stuff. Very modern problems. So yeah, it's kind of like this idea of like how masculinity changes through this modernism, basically, and how Ray likes to focus on the women too, like how they're kind of like you wouldn't say they're necessarily like modernist feminist movies where they're like kind of pro women. I don't know, like you could say they're pro women. They definitely are.
It all depends. He leaves it open.
Like, yeah.
He's definitely more of a want to read into
kind
it,
of documentary. He's definitely more of a documentary approach to it, though.
Yeah. He has a sensitivity to women,
especially in like Charlotta and stuff.
Yeah. You're allowed to read into that if you want to, for sure.
Yeah. But then we see like to get back to the movie, we see some great shots of like her like opening this like huge pot and then just like this kids inside. Love some great
best scene in the movie. That's not like a diss. It's just like I love.
There's
cats.
monkeys in these movies too, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like, I just like, little kittens. Like,
Little kittens are amazing.
like, bro, that's just like straight. That's like keeping my heart right there.
We also get a great shot that kind of reminded me of like a Renoir moment where, because we learned that this daughter's been stealing food and giving it to the grandma without, we think, well, she's trying to hide it from the mom, and of course the mom knows.
Yeah.
But there's this great shot where the mom is just like, it's like kind of a depth of field shot where like she's in the background staring at them as they're sitting in the foreground. It's just like a great like it kind of reminds me of like when we're putting all these like different generations in the same shot. You know, it makes you think about that. And then we get the basically like I said, like at the 14-minute mark is where the father comes in, and I mentioned the author Devapriya Sanyal. She says, so there's a strange dichotomy operating here. Apu, representing the young independent nation, opening his eyes to a modern world, while his father, as a priest, is product of tradition and ineffectual. I think it's a great line because first of all, we see the father when he comes home is at night. They're all sleeping, and he's kind of just like staring at them like while they're all sleeping. And then the next morning is when we see Apu for the first time. And it's like a great shot where she's like opening. I think like he's sleeping and like he opens the covers over his eyes and we just see his eye for the first time.
Yeah.
Because like it goes with that quote where she says, "Apu represents the independent nation opening its eyes to the modern world," you know, versus him like kind of being like the old father just like looking towards the past. But then we these are like this is kind of we get the more just like just different moments, you know. Yeah. We see the parents talk about money, or the first talk they have about money.
And their house is important too because it's like really worn down.
Yes.
We're really
this is
down.
Where, like I said, there's a difference between talking about the film and if you talk about basically what you would talk about when you talk about a film.
Yeah.
It sounds more depressing than if you kind of talk about just like the images itself, where you kind of, if you're just describing the images is what Blake is saying, you get the rundown stuff because and basically like you have to learn through the environment of what they're living, like how basically desperate their situation is, you know. Because the father like he doesn't want to admit like it's as bad as it is, you know. He like talks about how
he's got the blinders on.
Yes. He's talking about how don't worry, in like a few months he's gonna give you more money and like they're gonna spend money to save face with the neighbors and stuff. And she's like talking about how they owe money now. And there's various readings you can have on some of their discussions that are just more casual. But like there's one part where it's really funny, where she's like, "Who's to say who's good and who's not? People are always cheating you," and that just makes it funny because like he's a priest, so it's like she's like literally asking to say who's good or not, and like you would think it would be him, you know?
Be a priest.
Yeah, but he's like, of course, obviously he doesn't, because she's talking about how like people are always not paying him and stuff after he does, so it doesn't work for them. But to keep going in the movie, I think we get a time jump, and this is where we see the son is now older, and the sister's also older too. And I kind of like these time jumps.
He does a lot of time jumps throughout the whole, like,
and they're just like you're supposed to imply. It's just implied, you know. You don't get, it's just like implied through the images. Like this is an older person, you know.
Does he do like the 5? He doesn't do like the
no
5 years later.
No,
or
he doesn't do that.
No. But yeah, to keep going, this is like one of the few happy moments of the film because it's like we're actually getting like some happy theme music and we're watching and I realized like watching the Apu Trilogy too, we're gonna see him getting ready a few different times, you know, where he's like getting ready his hair and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where he's doing it. His family's basically doing all for him. Like both the sister and the mom are basically doing all the work for him. And it's kind of like it's a really interesting moment just to watch. It's like a fun moment to watch. But then when he comes back to this kind of moment later after the sister dies, I'm pretty sure
it's after that he's combing his own hair.
He does it all by himself. Basically these same moments he does all by himself later. Basically showing like now he realizes he's going to have to grow up, you know, right after the sister dies. But it's all visual, you know, like he just shows these same kind of moments again. And I think it's like a really beautiful thing. It also is a great, like, there's like a shot where I think it might be the poster or something, where it's all three of the family, like the old poster, where it's like all
I
three
don't
of the
think I've
family
seen
members.
the old poster.
I see too.
But it's like where you see all three of the family members and they're like both helping him and they're all smiling and it's like, damn, like you're not gonna get a lot of that in this movie. Like after this. No, but like because we see them also like all three of them. Or actually, no, just the two of them walk down this path too. That we're gonna see him walk by himself, the exact same path down by himself later on.
The things with him and his sister are really sweet.
Yes.
Like especially at these opening moments because they're building their relationship.
Yes. Actually,
you talking about this one, right?
Yep, that
Okay.
one. Yep, exactly.
I've never seen this.
There's also like a few, him and his sister. They're basically the joyous moments of this movie because like they're supposed to be the kind of you could say the contrast to
Like
the problems of the father,
like
and mother.
the innocence,
Yes, the innocence of them not realizing their situation
Yeah.
almost. Especially the sister's really interesting too because it makes her death even worse. It's like kind of this theme I'm talking about how like women have been sacrificed a lot for men. She almost like her death almost implies that almost too directly. It's like what life she could have lived. That Apu's living now.
It's
Or
almost
maybe-
like she sacrifices herself too.
It feels like that, but it's not. Because
Yeah.
like she dies from a sickness or something. But just like in the kind of
just the way that leads or what leads to the sickness, like it almost feels like she sacrifices herself because she's just dancing in the rain. I don't know, while he's watching.
Oh, I love that shot.
It's a great shot, but
yeah, then kind of to get some, because I don't want to say every moment, so I'll just read some of them. Just talk about some of the more moments I loved. There's like a moment where she's talking to the father again about how they haven't paid back people in 3 months and stuff, and first of all, like this scene itself has this kind of. This is the first moment I wrote in my notes of like various a contrasting thing. But like in this scene, we see the father and mother kind of talking about the debts they owe, and at the same time, we're watching the son grab something from the shelf, and basically, and then it's like we learned it's some like kind of fruit that I think she had stolen, and then we watch them eating it together.
yeah,
And he's basically kind of like I mentioned, like I just earlier, like this contrast of like the problems of the father and mother. That's like one emotion, and then you contrast it immediately with like the kids and like what they're doing with this like a little more joyful or hopeful, I guess you could say. And then they go and I think they there's like a great shot too of like because they realize the dad is also the easy one to get money from.
Oh yeah.
So like there's that moment where like she's like go ask dad for money, but like keep it quiet so mom doesn't hear. But then like as he's asking, like it's shot all in wide shot, and then you just hear the mom yell like, "No, don't give him any money." But then we get some shots of like basically them at home. There's like at night where it's like the mother's braiding the father's hair, and like I think the son is sitting with the father if I remember right. But it's like the first time he hears the train. That's what I have in my notes because like the train is also a significant theme in this movie. We talked about it with Ozu. The kind of like train representing modernism in a way, like it can take you to a different place,
I just like trains.
Also, trains are cool. I mean,
train shots
trains are
sick.
cool. But like, I like how he hears the train for the first time too. Because like, there's a great like a pan to his face like as he's listening to it, and then like he asks his sister if she's ever seen one, and asks if he can go see one because like he's never seen a train before. And then there's like a great kind of it's like there's a great moment where the camera dollies out and it ends on just all four of them like sitting at their house like kind of silhouetted, and it reminds me of so I just saw this quote yesterday. Someone on Twitter posted about Renoir's what's the ballet movie? God damn it!
Oh no, French. No, I think I saw the
French
same
Hand.
one where
The
it was
quote
about like how it like ends on a painting.
Yes, yeah.
Because that was a Rivette thing
was a Rivette
too.
quote?
Because it was Renoir saying that Rivette told him that. I can read the quote right now if you want.
Oh yeah, Rivette told someone that.
You told Bazin.
Oh, Bazin, yeah. Basically, the quote
Do you want me to read
was,
the quote?
Do you have the whole quote?
Yeah, in a second. Yeah. Jacques Rivette pointed out to me that it's Bazin actually. Yeah. Jacques Rivette pointed out to me that unlike those who think that to be inspired by painting means to compose a shot imitating a painting, and then bring it to life, Renoir starts from a non-pictorial arrangement and cuts when the framing of a scene has evoked a painting. Take, for example, the shot where Francois Arnold crosses the entire set to sit at the foot of the column right in front of the camera. Suddenly, it is a Degas. Or Degas.
Degas.
Okay, is that painter? I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. But the scene shifts immediately. Renoir never starts from a painting; he ends there.
Yeah, that's the last line, especially like he ends there. Because you notice that a lot.
Oh yes, I remember that shot.
That's a great shot too. I can see what you're saying with Degas too, but like especially the ending with the painting too, because like I noticed that a lot in this film. Like, you get the movement at the beginning, and the camera will kind of dolly out or pan to something, and then it'll just stop. Like that's where he basically ends as a painting. You know, kind of like getting this kind of universal feeling at the ending of a scene or something.
I'm looking at these Degas paintings now. God damn!
Like this guy had talent.
This guy's kind of fire.
Like this guy had the juice, if you will.
Honestly, a lot of ballet.
Very misogynistic person, but
very misogynistic.
I mean,
person.
Which artist isn't it?
Plus, apparently, there's some theories that people think he was Jack the Ripper.
Oh shit!
Makes it even cooler, honestly.
Okay.
Like, yo, that's kind of dope, bro. Like,
no, he was crazy. No, Godard has some good quotes about him too. But then there's like we get like this great shot of the grandma. It starts with just the shadow, I think, and then it pans out to the grandma telling the two kids a story. And then like as they're talking, we see like kind of the parents whispering. Basically, every time they're talking, it's about money problems almost.
Yeah.
Which is also another modern problem too. And it's funny because like the father's talking about how he might have a wealthy client, but he's like he doesn't want to give it away that they're desperate.
The father,
he's like, "Are you crazy? They're gonna think we're hard up." And he's like, "Let them. We are hard up."
It's so funny.
And then Apu like playing with the bow and arrow too. It's funny too. He like the bow and arrow, and he's
just shooting around.
Yes.
Yeah. There's like a dog too.
Yeah. Is that after this? I don't
No,
know.
it's in the same scene. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I don't know. The dad in the scene is hilarious.
Like I said, there's no, which is my favorite part of the movie, where like the Revette quote of like there's no. I gotta memorize that honestly.
No,
especially
that quote's
that's
fine.
what a film is.
It's honestly
There's no
that
script,
quote. It's kind of like perfect.
That's basically
like,
what I'm trying to say
always.
But this is the first time they're also talking about Benares too, about going to the city. And it's a great moment too, because these are like little moments I noticed this time, like especially paying attention to this kind of like basically newly entering modernism theme of the movie. As they're talking about basically going to the city, like I mentioned, she's the one who's like, I have no ties here. You know, of course, like he's like, I'm the one I have ties to in my ancestral home. I want to stay here and stuff. And she's like, we should go to the city. There's more opportunity there. And as they're talking about that, you hear the train on the soundtrack too. He just plays like slightly this kind of train whistle or something, and it's a great kind of the way he just uses sound to kind of enhance basically the train as that kind of symbol again. I think she even says like something like it's like living in a jungle here. Like
well, I think they used to live in the city, and then they moved out here.
Yeah,
because the dad wanted to get back in touch with his roots, basically.
Exactly, yeah, going backwards, you know. And it's this quote where he basically falls asleep. I think where he's talking, where she said, "I had a lot of dreams too."
Yes.
But you wouldn't understand, and he's like, of course, falling asleep while he says that. And there's going to be now that I'm realizing there's a very similar moment in Aparajito, exactly, where she's saying the same complaints and he falls asleep too, which I didn't realize that whole.
Because she's basically in that movie, she's basically saying like, "Are you going to look after me whenever you make it rich?" And then he's like falling, he fell asleep. Yes. It's just like, damn.
And not only that, like, so first of all, comparing it to that movie, that moment in the next movie is great. But then like, he literally kind of contrasts too within this scene, because right after he shows the mom saying that, he cuts to the grandma outside. And she's just singing alone outside to herself, and it kind of makes you think of her own life too, like what she's had to go. Maybe something very similar, you know, because we've seen
her dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Those are my thoughts exactly. And then also the song she's singing, we're gonna hear too after she dies, when her body's being taken. He plays the same song on the soundtrack. But then we kind of get some great moments of the. Like, we just see, like, some of the girls in the village, like, cooking by themselves, which is great. There's a great kind of, like, this visual shot of... I don't know. Like, it made me think of, like, it's a great way to put a lot of visual designs and just, like, a simple shot of, like, he has all these different... I don't know what, like, if they're... there's something hanging on clotheslines, if they're towels or something, but they all have different designs, and he just shows, like, the grandma walking across all of them. Like her face going across all of them, like almost like a Godard shot or something. You know, as like the camera's like basically tracking with her face and profile. And then like it kind of reminds me of the same thing of the grandma has a quote because she's going to talk to the mother because she's like going to take some food, I think, and the mother's like, no, you can't have it, and she's like, can't an old woman have wishes too? It's like almost the same. It's like a similar quote to what the mom just says. And Ray, like, apparently Ray, like, he says about the old woman because she is kind of like, she's just like fun to watch, I guess, throughout the movie.
She's got great. You can tell he loves filming her.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He even said at one point that he thought Pather Panchali could not even happen without her. And he talks about how, like, she basically understood exactly what he was going for in the movie, too, in her performance. And then we hear... this is great. I just have in my notes that we hear, like, a moment of the mother... She drops something and she starts coughing. And it's like a classic example of basically if you hear a cough in a movie, it's like never a good sign. Like, because why would you put a cough in a movie? Like, it's like basically always foreshadowing. If there's someone's coughing in a movie, it's foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, what are some memorable, like, coughing...
I mean, think of any movie where the person's
Interstellar.
sick. Does someone get sick in it?
When they're, like, on the planet, it's, like, dusty and they're, like, coughing a bunch. Like, the Casey Affleck and his family.
That's just on Earth.
Or on Earth, yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, like, we don't know a character's gonna get sick or something. Or, like, get cancer or something. You know, have some serious sickness.
Okay, what else?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think.
It definitely happens. I have to think of more examples. But, like, basically, if you hear a character cough, it's not a good sign.
It's over. Yeah.
In Nine Soup, the only reason you even know time is passing is because you hear a cough of him getting sicker.
I don't remember that.
Well, you just hear like his raspy breathing.
Does Pascal
cough
cough in Blaise Pascal?
He does, yeah.
Yeah, he does, definitely. That whole movie's like him getting sick.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking about. Like,
was
there a cough in that movie? I don't remember.
He just always
does.
sick.
I don't know. But then, like, basically the grandma, I don't know if it's the scene where the mom kicks her out, too. Where the grandma, we see her packing her things.
They have an interesting relationship, you know.
They do.
It
actually makes the movie kind of more realistic in a way, because
it does.
The mother is not a clearly good person either, in a way. Like in a movie with a good character, she would realize that she's doing to the grandma the same thing. You know,
and if she would,
stuff like that.
If the mother wouldn't have died in the Aparajito, you could easily see her being just the cycle continuing of her being this mother to Apu's wife, because you assume that this is obviously the dad's mom, because hopefully she wouldn't be treating her own mom like this. But hey, some kids do. But if this is the dad's mom, she obviously has basically no one else. Although in this, she obviously has like a nephew that she goes and stays 2 days with. Yeah. But that's all that he wants her there for, essentially. So she basically has no one else. So, and obviously, like, the mom has no one else in Aparajito either. So that's even what one of the ladies says. She's like, you need to get your son to marry someone, because at least then you won't be all lonely. You won't be lonely all the time. But...
Yeah. No, it's a good point. But to the next kind of big moments I have in my notes are like we see Apu watch like a theater troupe that comes in town for the first time, and it's like he spends a long time just showing the kind of their play. Too. Yeah, just watching the play within a movie. You know, Renoir thing also watching some kind of performance.
That's what I was saying.
You said Renoir? I
said that's a Renoir thing.
Oh yeah, I think I said New Realist. I don't know why. I don't know why I had heard that in my head. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and he spends a while too just showing this. In a way, it's also it's a good just like watching the kind of just traditional Indian play, you know.
Yeah, there's some crazy fits on.
and then like the great shots of him after basically mimicking what he just saw, you know.
Yeah, with like the mustache thing.
Well, and if you think about just cinema history too, like Buster Keaton, one of the reasons he went into cinema was because like traveling troops came through his like little podunk town or whatever that he lived in, and that's like this is a huge thing just in like progress of just like the things from the city coming into the country and showing kids basically that there is more out there than just this little village that you're living in.
No, I think that's a really direct point he's making with showing this, because like basically like it's not a coincidence we see his eye open for the first time. That's the first time we see him. Or like in this scene we see like he focuses on not only basically the whole point is watching the thing he's watching from the city, like you said, but also the reaction shots of like how big his eyes are, just like watching it and taking it all in, and then immediately after going and mimicking it.
Yeah.
Basically like taking in what he sees from the city or from like places that are not his village. And we're gonna see that throughout that's a theme of the next two movies of like that author I mentioned, she mentions in the third movie how like basically in Aparajito, when he comes back to the village, he's like still really depressed like every time he comes back. But in the third movie, we see like how shitty his apartment situation is at the beginning of the third movie. But he's like so happy to be there still. Like he's in the rain. It's like raining, but he's like happy to be there. You know, and it's kind of just the idea of like he seems to be like a city boy. You know, just like this modernist kind of like that's what appeals to him versus this kind of traditional ancient way of life that maybe you might thought Pather Panchali might be about or something. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of the opposite in a way. Yeah, that's like then we see the there's actually another moment where I was talking about with the music he does where like we first see the dramatic moment of he's wearing like he makes this like tinfoil hat, I think, crown, but we learn that he actually stole it from her stuff.
Yeah.
And so they start chasing each other and it's like a dramatic moment, but then the camera kind of detaches and we get the kind of like rhythmic music, the Ravi Shankar kind
It's
of
dramatic.
poetic music.
It's dramatic, and
Yeah.
but it turns into a game.
Yes.
Like it's like they're almost just like having fun with each other until she obviously catches them. But
Yeah. Man, like the grandma, like you said, grandma comes back like a couple days later.
and it's so like it's both. It's like depressing. It would be more depressing if she wasn't saying the things how she's saying them, because she's like, oh, I just wanted to see the house one more time before I died. You know? Just so matter of factly. But like there was a quote I feel like that you read at the beginning of this podcast where it's just like where one of the directors I think that you quoted said that they love this movie just because it's like it's just people getting wrapped up in like the flow of life essentially. As you can tell, this grandma knows her life is at an end.
Yeah.
Like
it's my last dance.
Exactly. Like
that was the Kurosawa quote where he says, basically like people are aware of their of like. I'll find the quote in a second. I don't know where I put it.
No, it's a great quote, but I love that's one reason why I love the grandma though. It's just because she knows that she's the most in tune with life, you could say. Like she
people are born, live out their lives, and then accept their deaths without the least effort, without any sudden jerks. Ray paints this picture.
She's just so matter of fact about it. Like she's not sad. She's just like, I just wanted to see the house before I died. Like
but actually before death, there's actually really this is actually my favorite kind of moment of this kind of contrast, especially in this movie. Because do you remember the scene right before that when she dies?
It's the kids again, just playing, right?
It's the kids,
or eating
but
a bamboo.
Basically, this is where they go. They see the train for the first time, I think. So because it's first like this great shot of her staring at the electric tower, and like the way the camera pans down and stuff is just great.
Because she just, I said eating the bamboo because I just remember her having like that stalk of something in her mouth.
Yeah. And that's basically so she's staring at this electric tower, and then it's kind of like great as they're walking and you hear this like you basically hear this the wind loudly. That's all you can hear, and then all of a sudden you hear in the distance like the sound of the train, and they both get really excited. And it's like this amazing shot of it's honestly like one of my favorite shots in cinema. I'm starting to realize like a precise pan where like it kind of looks fast, but then like it goes exactly where it has to go, like and then it stops because like there's this shot of like you see the train on the right side of the screen. It's like in the distance, and then the camera pans like really fast to the left, and then you see Apu on the left side of the screen. He just like starts sprinting in wide shot to the train on the other side. It's like so good. And like you're hearing the music too, like as they get excited about the train.
Don't you also get a dolly shot in this one where you see them like aren't we like following the train as it's like going and they're just like running next to it?
I didn't write that. I just wrote that specific shot too. But yeah, I think you're right. But I mentioned that scene because like basically you could say that's the excitement of the like I said the same about the train and also the electric tower too. We literally see like two very modern things in their world, and then all of a sudden they're coming home, basically have this excitement, and then they see the grandma died. So it's like you get the contrast of like they were happy and now they're like really sad. You get the contrast of like this new world versus like the old world, like literally like back to back. But then also it just like kind of fits in the movie itself. Like this grandma was about to die, like you said, she was coming back. Even though the mom really didn't believe her about her coming back to die.
Yeah.
But just like all this, like, but you get this contrast constantly throughout the movie. This was the one I really noticed though, especially the way like the girl was like staring at the electric tower and stuff.
Yeah,
it kind of like just makes it stand out. But then we get, like I said, the grandma kind of her death scene of her body being carried to the music, her singing too. And like this is, I guess you could say another thing about death being accepted is like, yes, there's a sad death scene, but in a lot of times in movies where you get a sad death scene, the next scene will also be about the death. You know, people talking about or something. The next scene, you know, the characters just move on. You know, like yes, the death happens, but like now we're watching the father will leave. I think we watched the father go to his next job or something. He's going to go find. This is where he leaves for a while, right after. But he says he's going to go find another account. We see another little, like you mentioned earlier about the theater troupe being something from the city. We see a kaleidoscope this time.
Is why I love this movie so much.
I love this. Yeah, that's a great kind of just...
This is another instance of the kids asking the dad for money instead of the mom, obviously, too, though. But
and they actually get it this time.
Yes. And I love the shot of the dad looking at the kids, because this shot makes me realize this dad does love his kids at the very least. Like, he's looking at them and realizing, at least I'm looking at the dad looking at his kids in the shot, and he's thinking like they have hopes of like making their life better, essentially.
See, my doubt is I never doubt that he doesn't love his kids. My doubt is never there. My doubt is like, does he realize what that means? Like, or does he not understand?
Does he realize
this
the
modern world?
That
Yes,
come
exactly.
With that?
And like, yeah, does like the ancient world that he believes in actually match up to those responsibilities, kind of thing? You know.
Because I think whenever he sees his kids looking at this, I could easily see him coming back the next time and saying to his wife, like, okay, we can leave, basically. If what happens, obviously, whenever he comes back next didn't happen, but
no, I agree.
Because I think even before, even before she tells him that the daughter dies, isn't he saying something about like, oh, we can maybe like move because I have like better prospects or something? I can't remember, but I don't know.
Is that later?
I can't remember, but
either way, we get some more like moments of we see like the mother gather. Basically, this is all visual. Like she's gathering all the silver to go sell. Basically, because like we just watched the father leave without helping at all. So she's got to find some way to get money. We watched. There's like a great shot. I just have in my notes of it's like the marketplace of like the camera's like drawing across all these different hands, like doing the different things at their at their little shops on the street. It's almost like a Monte Carlo type of shot where we just see like his hands working. We see like an example of village life, just like by how young her friend is that gets married.
Yes,
which is insane, but yeah, let's see, what else? I think they say there's like, we get another example of how we learn time jumps is we see the wife basically complaining that the husband hasn't written in 5 months. And that's the only way we know, like, basically 5 months has passed.
So it's never been this long before.
Yeah. And this is like another kind of, just a minor moment of contrasting, but like he's doing this constantly once you realize it. It's like, so the mother's like sad that she hasn't written in 5 months, but then she immediately gets a letter saying...
Apu comes in with a letter again.
Yeah, Apu comes in immediately with a letter, and it's good news of he's finally found a client that and that they should be able to make money now. And it's like this, it's honestly one of the most like, it's like the, I guess you could say the most poetic shots in the movie, I guess, the way he's using the techniques, where like we see her face like in profile smiling, and it cuts with the music of like the river. There's like water flowing over her face, like it's like one of those dual shots where it's like overlaid.
Oh yeah.
And then it cuts to like the different characters. Basically after that, I forgot, like he kind of just cuts around to the different characters. Oh yeah, this is when it's going to start raining, like right after this. Okay. It's where we get like the long rain scenes and stuff.
Because is this the shot of the little like water skippers or whatever, like the little insects?
I think that's.
He cuts to different like bodies of water. It's like, or like just different like shots of water.
Yes. No, because one of the favorite shots of like him showing the rain starting is this fisherman that's like sleeping, and it's like he shows like a close up of one raindrop hitting like his head. He's like bald, and then like one raindrop hits the top of his head, and he like wakes up, and he just shows that really quickly. that's like this is like the great kind of moment of them like they're like running to go back home, and she's like just like standing in the rain. And he's like calling her, and she's like, "I want to stay," basically. And they're just like dancing together and stuff. And they go sit on this like huge ash tree under the rain. There's also I don't know if you guys realized it, but it kind of like puts the whole movie even like in a different perspective of this like moment like during this storm about to happen. The mother's walking back home, and she sees one of the fruit that's fallen on the ground.
Yeah.
And I've kind of skipped over it, where like that whole scene of
the
daughter,
the
daughter getting in trouble for stealing fruit, where the lady had come.
Well, she got in trouble for stealing her friend's bracelet or whatever.
Actually, I should have brought the scene up.
Yeah.
Because it's important for the last scene, where
it is,
the daughter gets in trouble for stealing the bracelet, or I think it's a necklace.
She's accused of stealing this thing. Yeah.
We don't know if she does it or not.
Yeah.
But either way, at that time, the neighbor's like, your daughter still steals fruit all the time. Basically, calling her daughter, and like the mother gets mad at her daughter for stealing fruit, and like basically because she's embarrassed, but she gets mad.
Mad at her daughter, but she defends her daughter to the lady by saying, because I like it because she says like, "Oh, if the fruit's falling on the ground, it's free for anyone."
Yes,
is that like owned by anyone?
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I forgot exactly what she said there. Because during the storm, I put in my notes that it's great where as she's walking, she sees a fruit that's on the ground. And she looks both ways, like, and then she ends up just taking the fruit and walking. Yeah. And like he never points it out, but it's like a great little moment of like, you know, like daughter, like a
like
mother
kind
kind
of
like mother like daughter kind of moment. But yeah, then this is like we see the sister sick for the first time, so we're kind of coming to the close of the movie, and like one of the neighbors asks the wife why the husband wanders so much, which is just like that's also foreshadowing for how he's going to live his life, especially in the world of Apu.
Yeah.
But kind of basically how he approaches his own life too. But then we see we get some moments of just like the mother taking care of the daughter as she's getting sicker and stuff, and then like this is where I mentioned like the southern moment with the damage, because there's this like we've already seen the storm happen and the daughter's getting sicker, and then like the first time we basically learn like the daughter's like basically gonna die is the son like knocks on the neighbor's door and asks the neighbor to come over.
Yeah.
He's like, the sister's getting worse, and then the way the camera like pans across this, the wreckage of what they're coming back to, like we see like this dead frog. I don't know if you guys remember the shot. There's like this dead frog just sitting in the water too. As like it's like panning across. There's like a cow standing like in the damage too. It's like so much like the southern.
The trees falling on the house.
Yeah, the trees. Yeah. And then we see basically them come, and the son, I think the son asks, "Is Dee Dee asleep?" And she tells him to go somewhere.
She's like, yeah, she's sleeping. Go get the doctor or whatever.
Yes, that's what and then basically the neighbor just comes and checks and realizes that she was dead, as the mother's basically just like in shock, holding her. And it kind of just hangs on that moment for a little bit. But then right after that, you could say like, see, this is where these contrasts.
He hangs on these moments long enough to just let you put whatever you want to think in there, because like this mom, like she's been treating her daughter. She's been hard on her daughter. Like she's been treating her like a parent should, obviously. Like if you think your daughter is like misbehaving or whatever, but she's been hard on her. And like in this moment, you're just like looking at the mom, obviously, just holding your daughter in shock and like, damn, like what's going through her mind right now?
Oh, yeah. And I think it's also significant, like just symbolic wise, for lack of a better word, is like the reason the son is not there during this actual death scene. Like as he's hanging there, like the son is sent away. In the room is actually 3 women. Like it reminds me of the beginning of the movie, like I was saying, where we only see women. During this death scene, we only see 3 women, and like we think it's almost like it's a melodramatic scene in a way. Like we're watching a daughter die as we've watched this whole movie. But the next scene, like I said, instead of being about the death again, it is still about the death, but it's also very hopeful, because like the next scene is that scene I was talking about with Apu getting ready by himself now. Like basically him growing up, through this death. Like it's like this kind of hopefulness through, but also realizing death. I don't know. It's like it's kind of got both in it, because you're kind of proud of him for doing all this stuff by himself now, Like, and he's obviously learned from like his daughter and his from his sister, and it's just great that that's the next scene, just like without any in between, like no words or anything. It's like you just get that from him showing the two right after each other. And like I said, he even shows the same visual moments, like him at the doorway combing his hair and stuff, and then him walking down the same path that we saw earlier, walk with his sister and stuff. But then this is like kind of the saddest moments where we see this dad now.
Yeah.
He doesn't know anything that's happened.
Yeah.
And basically Ray kind of withholding how long he's going to withhold this information. The dad finding out, you know. And like basically the wife starting to cry after he like shows the sari he brought for his daughter.
Yeah.
Where she's trying, like, you can tell she's so mad, like she doesn't even want to tell him, you know, like fuck you, you know.
That's literally what she's saying. She's like,
but when he brings out like what he bought for the daughter, it's like she breaks down, you know. But then like this is also the same moment where like it's another little moment where I've noticed where we think we're gonna get the melodramatic wife crying, and she does start crying, but immediately after that he kind of detaches and the music becomes the theme of the movie, like it becomes the more thematic music, you know, not the more like dramatic emotion, if you want to put it that way. I think the next scene is like them starting to pack. Yeah, it is actually. So like this is kind of another time jump without really telling us anything. It's like after, like this is the father kind of realizing like maybe I gotta change something.
This is the father realizing he's basically gotta grow up too, almost. Yes. Like
because we even get the scene of him talking to like the old men in the village where they're like, why did you come consult us about this?
It's like, you should have at least talked to us before this.
Yeah. He's like, are you sure you're doing the right thing? He's like, I still owe you guys money from like obviously it's not working out. Basically, it took the death of his daughter to kind of have these realizations, which is, you know, you hear this a lot, but like rock bottom's like sometimes the only thing that can make you realize something, you know. But yeah, like then, even though like you can say this is a depressing moment, like the last scene is still very kind of, it's kind of like for Apu, like it's like a closure moment, I guess you could say, and it's kind of a good narrative. I mean, a good like filmic kind of conclusion too of like, you know, earlier we weren't sure if she stole the necklace or not. And so Apu, as he's like, you know, rummaging through things that I think he's just like rummaging through the shelf or something.
Yeah, he finds it.
He finds it.
It's on like the very, very top of the shelf too. Like crazy.
Yes. And first of all, Ray said he like basically improvised the scene as he was like thinking one day of like how he's gonna end the movie. He was just throwing pebbles in the water, and he's like, he realized watching the pebble fall, I was like, I wonder if I can make the necklace do something like that. And that's what he thought of this ending of Apu throwing the necklace.
We should go throw pebbles in water.
I mean, I can skip pretty good.
We should just do that.
It's all based on what rock he gives.
I mean, it takes some skill too. Like the rig flist matters.
The wrist flick.
But yeah, basically, I think it's like a great closure moment too of him kind of like, instead of keeping the necklace, throwing it like kind of, it represents his village life too, almost coming to an end. And
protecting his sister's good name, Nick.
Yeah, honestly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Basically, that'll be his secret. And then we kind of get the last shots of the house empty with just the dog sitting there, and then the family being carried to the city.
Oh, by train, right?
By oxen.
By oxen. I thought it was on a train that they were going to the city.
No, they're on
oxen.
oxen.
No, it is on an ox.
That's at the beginning of... Actually, that's a good point, because they're being carried by oxen at the end of this one. Aparajito starts on a train, though.
I completely forgot it was an ox. I thought it was a train.
It's taking them to the train.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, the dad says something really sad, or kind of sad at the end, because he's just like, don't worry, we're leaving our past behind now, or whatever, and the mom just starts crying, I think, after that, because you're just like, damn, you're leaving your daughter, like, and never coming back, essentially, but...
Even though I guess we're going to see them come back. It's actually kind of... Now I'm realizing this, too. A death makes them leave. A death is also going to make them come back, too.
It is.
But yeah. So that's the end of Pather Panchali. I think we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back with Aparajito. To start on our next movie in the Apu Trilogy, Aparajito. Actually, I didn't even know the year. I didn't even look up the years for these.
56?
56, I think. Well, I think Pather Panchali was 55. This is 56. Then
59, I think.
58.
58.
It might be 59.
Yeah, because there was 2 movies that came out between Aparajito and Apur Sansar's filmography too, which is
Yeah, okay, Apur Sansar was 59.
yeah, and this was 56. So it's also like I kind of mentioned that just mentioned this randomly, thinking about Ray in relation to like some of the other things directors we've done. Like he really is coming. Like Bazin mentioned him with a modernist, kind of like with the modernist sensibility of cinema, but he really is coming in to cinema at the same time of like the French New Wave and like Kurosawa, where like basically a new kind of cinema was happening where I don't know how to describe it directly, but like I talked to you guys about this last week off mic about how Robert Johnson was like the first blues singer, at least in the documentary I watched. He was the first blues singer to like synthesize all these like blues singers that he had heard that had only been like regional, and he was the first one to kind of like take that. Like to me, I see this generation of filmmakers of the 50s like across the world. They're in a way like doing that with film. Like they're the first kind of filmmakers that are really taking in like what film history has been, and like very aware of that too. You know, like when they use certain shots and stuff, they're kind of calling on film history itself too. You know, like on purpose. I know like Godard is most recognized for that, but even someone like Ray, he was very, even from the beginning. Like there's like a great quote I read about from him where they're talking about him trying to make he actually made this movie. I don't think we're gonna do it on the podcast, called The Home in the World. He made it like in the 80s, but that was actually the first movie he was going to try to make, and he was trying to get it produced, but the studio or whatever, they were trying to make him compromise a lot on it. And he's like, he had a quote where he like at the time he said, "I'm not going to compromise on my first movie, like knowing what it's going to mean for my legacy," kind of thing. Like he was already thinking about that kind of stuff, you know. Like it's interesting how he learned about film history too. Was a lot just by reading books, and like film magazines from the West and stuff. And like they all knew about like he started the first film society in technically the second film society in India, but the first in Bengal or Calcutta, where he's from. And they had that. Like what I'm saying is like it was very similar to kind of the film society you saw in like France, you know, or Italy. Every time you see these like film circles come up, you know, and this kind of self-awareness of film itself, and I think that kind of connects to Aparajito itself because, to me, more than Pather Panchali, like operas, like going back and watching these. Aparajito feels the most, to me, like a complete, almost movie. Like, to me, it's the best of the trilogy. Like, I kind of agree with Blake. Because, I think it does a good job of, I don't know, like, the way Pather Panchali, even though I love it, or I'd say I really like it, it still feels a little too, like, almost, I still don't know a precise word for what I'm going for, but, like, romantic, sensationalist, melodramatic. It still has a little more of those elements. But Aparajito, to me, it just it kind of has less of that. It's more like I don't know if you guys agree with me, but it feels more like direct. It feels more almost attached, I guess. Even the ending with the death, it feels less like kind of like melodramatic, I guess. I don't even think that's the right word I would use, but that's the closest I can think of right now.
Maybe. Well, I don't see that as a bad thing, but
I know you don't. Yeah. But like to me, it's almost always. I don't know. It's like maybe not a bad thing, but it's like something I don't like. It usually bothers me. I don't know why. Maybe I gotta think about that more.
You hate happiness.
No. Okay, but to defend myself here, because you know I'm going somewhere because this is directly based on a Ray quote where he's talking about this movie first he's talking about it in relation to the book too. Let me just read the quote because it's really good. Because he's talking about how a critic said this negatively, where he says, quote, "Dangerously near documentary," warns a critic, "which is all the time what we've been aiming at is precisely that feel of documentary, the outward and inward ring of truth, the hallmark of the best contemporary European cinema, so precious and so hard to achieve. Precious to me as a filmmaker, but it is so to our critics. But is it so to our critics? Do they not prefer the old familiar sights of the old and familiar sounds? The soothing monotone of the endless dialogue mouthed by the exquisite hero and the more exquisite heroine. Within the three walls of the goddess studio set lit with the charming ambiguity and the windows looking out that saw a dispensable backdrop. And basically he's talking about why I like this movie a little more. Like it feels like has that more documentary kind of feel to it. You know, that directness I was talking about. Wait, what?
I can see that.
Yeah, and I'll mention it more later, but especially at the ending because I have a good quote about it. But he really was drawn to the idea, especially he points out in the novel apparently that I haven't read, but this idea of apparently there's a point in the book where right after the mother dies, the son like his first feeling, he says he has this feeling instead of sadness, he says he feels freedom, this moment of freedom after the mother dies, and then almost feeling guilty because of that freedom he felt. And he says like basically that idea basically kind of stimulated the idea of this film. And to me that's really interesting because it kind of goes to this idea of what I've been talking about of like I said, the father could be like the traditional past of the first movie. You could say the mother is kind of this one in this movie of like they literally go back to their ancestral home, and that's where the mother dies the same way the sister died in the beginning. But before I go more on it, let me ask you guys, what do you guys think about I know Blake said you love it, but we'll start with Luke. What do you think about this movie?
I mean, yeah, I love it too. Probably my second favorite. Probably, yeah.
You know I don't care about rankings.
Yeah, it's all arbitrary anyway. But yeah, this one, it definitely like I think for me like I could definitely relate to it a lot, especially with like the fact like the idea of like him going to like college or whatever, and then kind of like his parents aging, and like, you know, like kind of like almost just like noticing when your parents are getting older or whatever, and then like the troubles with communicating with your family, and then also some personal stuff too in my life with my mom too. Yeah, but yeah, no, it definitely like I definitely could connect a lot of ideas, like especially also just like achieving independence too for the first time and kind of like dealing with that. Like definitely like yeah.
It's funny you say that, and you meant that in a very personal context, right?
Yeah.
Like achieving independence, but like I was talking about that, how that on a greater scale, that's how India was also achieving independence for the first time, and how they dealt with that. You know,
yeah, that's good.
He's
good
basically
point.
in a way symbolizing that literally.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, symbolizing that.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just funny.
No, yeah,
it implied it even more than one way.
Yeah. But no, yeah, it's a great movie.
No, yeah.
Also, I think it actually applies more to how Ray's going to film his future movies. Like he's more of a city person himself.
No, Also, yeah, it's interesting too, like how it kind of like is like starting to go more into like the urban areas.
Yes.
Compared to like where we were basically just stuck to the.
And that's actually another kind of thing now I'm thinking about is like if I'm like introducing Ray to someone, that's why I would not show the Pather Panchali, because he's not this kind of village kind of nature director. You know?
He does like nature.
He loves the rhythms
nature.
of nature,
yeah,
and the rhythms of life. But like he loves filming the city. And actually, when I think of Ray, the first thing I think of is like how he films like rooms and stuff.
Yeah,
you know, and that's actually more what we get in this movie. But what about you, Blake? Why do you love this movie?
No, yeah, I love this movie. So one reason, you already brought up the ending, obviously. Like I love the ending because in typical movies, the mom's death would obviously be playing on your emotions. And in this one, it does play on my emotions, but solely because it's everything I'm thinking of. Like, it's what I'm thinking of. It's not what I'm being told to think. Like I'm thinking of everything this mom and this son have been through in these first two movies whenever this death comes at the very end of the movie. And I love how detached it is, because, like, whenever you said in the book that he felt free, that's what this entire movie is to me. Is like this idea of what even is freedom. Like, because I think I already mentioned, like, in the third movie, he's basically telling his wife or whatever that he just married, like, I don't want this, I'm trapped in this marriage, I don't want to just let her. And you're literally saying that's someone that has no agency in their life basically at all in this time. And I don't know, it just makes me think of a lot of different things because, like, this mom obviously has never had agency in her life after she married. Like, she's never been able to have this, like, even this feeling of freedom that this son is feeling in this movie. And this son's freedom isn't even, like, really that great, you could say, because, like, he's having to work himself to the fucking bone just to go to, like, just to try to make himself, like, try to make his life better. But he is also, like, hopeful in that because he's, like, he's trying to make his life better. Not even just like it's for kind of selfish reasons also. Like, I don't know, like he's not even doing this for his mom. He's just doing this because, like, he can almost. And I think that's something like Ray is saying, even on, like, a societal level, like under like a theme that's under the, like, I don't know, under the covers or whatever, I guess. Like men in the society at least have this option, but all the women that were shown in this movie have no option like that. Yes. Like, they are at the whims of the man they marry or their dad.
That's why I think he's, like, very documentary in, like, how he's showing these themes, because he's, like, it's not like showing in the way like a propagandist film would show or something, you know, where, like, that's like what it's directly saying, but, like, you can definitely read that there. You know,
and that's the best thing is, like, this is, like, he's not telling you any of this. This is just all things that I'm thinking of just based on what some of the characters have been saying in this movie. Like, they're not, like, these are just throwaway lines of dialogue in most other movies that you're recalling at most of these moments, honestly. But I don't know, I do love Aparajito, but I also like it because it is kind of just more, it feels more laid back and kind of fun and free flowing.
Yes,
like, he's
kind of, that's another reason I kind of like it.
I love the friend that's introduced in this one, Pulu or whatever his name is. Like, yes. I love this friend that's going to be here in the next two movies, but I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why I love this movie, but it's definitely just, like, mostly because I'm allowed to have my own thoughts on what it all means, and I kind of like that about it, so.
I mean, I'm glad you said that, because I mentioned this with why I brought up this concept of Rasa, in that the quote I remember Prakash Younger saying, he says, is a choiceless awareness. Basically, this idea of you get, like you said, it's like presented for you, and then you get to choose.
Yeah.
As a spectator yourself, you know, without it being, like, kind of directly stated to you. But I think we can go ahead and get into the movie too, because I'll bring up some more stuff, obviously, while I get into it. But okay. Damn, how does this?
Especially since it started with the train, right?
Yeah, it does start with the
train. Because it ends with an ox in the first one.
And, like, the birds and stuff in the city.
Yes.
The birds,
and actually, we do get a title card. That's what I had. I was confused when I know, because it says 1920. And I was like, I thought that was the timing I had. It was, like, actually just the year. It shows that Benares is 1920. I think, like we mentioned, the last movie ends on oxen and them taking a cart. This movie starts with them taking a train into the city, which is interesting just in itself. Then we see, like, basically various shots now among the river, along this in the city, where all basically the city life activity takes place, where it's, like, obviously much more happening. We used to get this long shot of, like, the father walking back, basically in a way to show us, like, his environment and stuff.
It's also going to be a repetitive shot. I like these shots of the dad walking these stairs.
That is true. Yeah. We only see, like, the son, like, basically 10 minutes in, after he's, like, he's playing with the other kids and stuff. Yeah, all this, basically, most of this intro is a lot of, like, visual storytelling, you know? And it's kind of, like I mentioned, contrast between, like, the scenes in the last movie. And it's, in a way, you could say this first 15 minutes is a way to contrast the city life with the last movie. Like, if most people, most people watching the last movie are probably watching this one, you know, or, like, if you're watching this one, you'd probably seen the last one.
Yes, definitely.
And a lot of people had also known the novel. The novels were very popular at the time too, so people would have known the story. So, like, he's basically showing you a visual version of the contrasting of the last movie and that life to this one, you know. I love the kind of you could say, like, this is his version of seeing a gym for the first time, where he's seeing this guy, like, doing this, like, he's like swinging this rock that's on the end of a stick.
It's crazy.
Like, trying to balance it. Like,
this dude's
balancing it.
He's just doing a workout routine.
Yeah, it looks insane to try, honestly.
It almost makes me think of just, like, the kettlebell shit Like that's honestly what he's kind of doing. But
Yeah,
just
honestly,
like
something
this
like
rod
that.
and giant stone.
Yes, something like that.
And I love how fascinated Apu is by it. You can't tell if he's like scared of this guy or just like really intrigued. Like,
He's like, it's not really my. I think he asked him if you want to join.
yeah, he does.
We see basically the neighbor, the son have to go ask the upstairs neighbor for matches, and then this guy's like basically an alcoholic. I think he's like implied he's an alcoholic. He's like, that's my medicine over there, and it's like a bottle of alcohol.
This guy's like super weird, honestly, because I
Well,
never know.
The mom gets really scared.
Yeah,
of him,
exactly.
for a
Like
moment.
Ray's doing something with this guy, trying to show like some
basically as
power
much as he can
dynamics.
probably show at the moment. Like this
Yeah.
guy's a creep.
Yeah, like just some like, and just the power dynamics of if your husband is literally almost dying, what could happen?
I think
to
that's
you?
really
Like,
what he's like. He's showing. I had in my notes later. Like he's showing what her fears are. Like
yeah.
as we've seen, she's very much thinking about the like future and like
Oh, definitely.
her material realities basically. And so like the thought of her husband dying is like she's obviously scared about this neighbor who's
it's
already
making her a nervous wreck.
Yes, exactly, and she's like thinking of that moment. But then we get some moments of like a religious ceremony. We get the fireworks that happen at night.
I like the fireworks.
Yeah. The fireworks will also come back where the father is like
Whenever he...
it's kind of sad because the
Yeah.
father, like, as he's dying, it's like the fireworks still aren't as good here as they are in back home, right? And like you can tell he just doesn't say anything. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to answer. Like his honest, at least in my opinion, he doesn't want to say his honest answer. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but yeah. I have in my notes too because this is like so. This is also maybe another reason why I love this movie so much is 24 minutes in is where the first time we get a moment of like conflict, and it's the father coughing. And he's like basically, or he's showing a sign of a fever or something. He's basically getting sick.
Yeah, he's just like walking really slowly.
Yeah. Basically, we're getting ready for it. Like
Basically, the rule is like with this trilogy is like as soon as like if you see like someone that's important to Apu, they're gonna die.
I mean, basically.
except for the friend.
That's true.
Basically, it's the family though.
Yeah, it's like anyone related to Apu, like their time is ticking. Like you better get ready, buddy.
But I do think, even though that is like true, like in kind of like the narrative sense, I do think that it's also supposed to tell something about like they're supposed to be symbols in a way, you know?
Oh yeah, I see that.
Like kind of all of them maybe represent something. Like maybe like because it's obviously like kind of melodramatic in how they all die, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, even some people have realities like that too, which is crazy. But yeah, this is basically the moment I was talking about, where like the father's dying, he's like in bed, he's like asking him about the fireworks, he's like, not as good as the city ones, right? And basically, the son is like just wanted to go play with his friend. He really doesn't know like this moment, like the father's about to die. There's like this great little moment of the monkey, the next after like it fades to black, and the next moment is the daylight where the monkey is like drinking from the tap water, and the mom comes, and the monkey basically like hisses at her and stuff, and she like freaks out. Like, that would freak me out too. Like monkeys are strong as fuck.
They could fuck you up.
Nah. Me and monkey would be cool.
Yeah,
I'm different.
Yeah, because you would give them all you'd be like, just take it.
Yeah, I was like, yo, bro, yeah, you got it, brother.
It's your water.
It's all you, dog.
I
think we low-key best friends. So, like, if I'm being honest, like, we just got a special type of bond, you know. Me and the monkeys.
You and the monkeys.
Yeah. We just understand each other on like a deeper level, like on a spiritual level.
Life would be dream.
Exactly.
But then, basically, this is like I like this cut too. When I think of his death, I always think about this cut where like first there's that shot of him like falling down the steps and he kind of like where he like kind of passes out.
Yeah.
And then he like barely like I think he gets carried back home, and he just asks for like water from the river before he can die, and like the cut of like him dying like and immediately cuts to these birds flying off the temple. I don't know, that visual always sticks in my head. And then like there's just a shot of him. He doesn't even look necessarily sad, but like he's him as like he's like probably a preteen as we've seen him so far in the movie, and he's just like thinking, looking down with the water behind him. But I think it is like it's the next scene after he dies is the scene of the neighbor approaching her and he says he's just gonna ask for something, but she like freaks out on him, and you can tell she's clearly basically thinking.
Yeah, and the way Ray shoots it makes it feel like there's something sinister maybe about to happen, but
yeah. At least she's thinking that way.
Definitely. And the way the guy's walking in is a little creepy for sure.
I think that's why also he introduced the alcohol earlier, where he's like, "That's my medicine." And it's like a bottle of alcohol. It's good.
Yeah.
You get these implications, or at least why she might think that way too.
Yeah.
But then basically we learned that the mother has these choices of where she wants to go now. If she wants to leave to a different city. With I guess she's working as like a cook for this rich family, and they ask her if she wants to go with them, and they even ask her if she has any family here, and she says no, so she go if she wanted to. But then she also has like I think they say it's a great uncle that lives that could go back to the hometown if you want to.
Yeah.
And she basically has to make that choice, There's a great pan of her thinking, and then the camera pans fast to reveal them back on the train. It's going the other direction now. So basically, basically we know they're going back home. But basically, from the reveal of the train now going the opposite direction of what we just saw from the same river shot of the beginning of the movie. And it's these long shots of basically the family kind of walking back together. And it reminded me of I don't know if you remember the kind of like long scene of Achilles and the Tortoise of them going back.
Yes.
The mother and son. It's like almost really similar with them.
But no, Achilles and the Tortoise remind me of this trilogy just in general, honestly. Okay. Or this trilogy remind me of Achilles and the Tortoise. So.
I can see that.
Always like a growing up episode.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's just a biographical feel, kind of, but
yeah.
And just the struggles, I guess, with people wanting to create, but not really society, not really allowing them to almost, just because of where they were born or what happened to them, I guess.
We then learn basically the uncle is going to teach. You can almost say this is him going backwards, literally, because not only are they going back hometown, now Apu's about to learn the priestly duties.
Well, he has to provide for his mom.
Yes, exactly. So. Yeah. And this is now his. He
can't go to school anymore. He has to go work.
But then we kind of just visually see him in the distance. Obviously, this is not what he wants because he sees the kids playing in the distance, as he's basically the only one who's learning as a kid in this school as a priest. So he basically, and then he goes and tells his mom that he wants to go to school.
Yeah.
And it's just all this happens pretty fast too, because he asks his mom, and the next scene is it cuts to him being at school, getting a lesson.
Well, and his mom is saying things to him "What do you want to be? You're a priest's son. What do you want to be a governor for?"
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Because she's obviously only worried about the money, because that's obviously they don't have anything. They're poor as shit. But.
Yeah. But she's not necessarily against it. She obviously wants
she's
the best
not.
for him. She will end up giving him money so he can go to school and stuff. That's
why she's great, because she is sacrificing for her son's dream, even though you could say no one ever did that for her. Which
honestly, yeah, dude.
Which I guess you could say is also a parent's duty, kind of, but which the dad did not understand, and the mom you could say definitely does, but
yeah. There's this great scene of him basically reading in Bengali this it must be some national poem or something, but he reads this long poem for this principal that comes in looking for good students and stuff, and he's this face he's making of him listening to is so great. It's kind of funny though.
Well, he's reading it like his dad also.
Oh, okay.
Because his dad has those morning sermons or whatever.
Yeah.
That we saw at the very beginning of the movie, and he was always talking like that. Because there were some great shots of the son watching his dad.
Yeah.
Give the sermons from up on top of the wall, and then he just starts walking across the wall.
That's a good point. And then this is basically how we're learning how he's actually a really good student too. Him
he's really smart.
Him trying to decide this path is not a bad idea kind of thing. I love this quote this teacher gives him where he's giving him books. He's I can give you books about travel, lives of great men, simple books about science, And then he gives this quote where he's like, "We may live in a remote corner of Bengal, but that doesn't mean that our outlook should be narrow." And I think that's a great quote of just like his kind of impulse to wanting to learn more and stuff. Like I think that's kind of the theme of the movie too. Just basically always want to. We kind of get that moment. We were talking about that with Pather Panchali of him like being excited every time he sees something new from the city and stuff. But like in this one, he's like kind of doing it himself openly.
Yeah.
You know, where he's chasing that by himself. There's like this it cuts from him like the teacher giving him those books and stuff. The next scene is him like dressed as like an African tribesman or something. He's like scaring his mom with the mask and stuff. And then it kind of the way it does the time jump is we just saw him as a kid, kind of, or the preteen of him in the teacher's classroom, and like basically 2 scenes later we see the same classroom, but now he's walking in as a...
He's like tall now.
He's taller now. Yeah, exactly. And that's how we know he's basically college age, or he's about to go to college.
Yeah.
And he, this is what the teacher sent him, like, he can get a scholarship to go study in Calcutta if he wants to. And this is where we, all, like I mentioned Pather Panchali, we get the train sounds too. Every time they're talking about going to the city or something, and he uses that same time. The same thing this time, where he's asking his mom about going studying, and we hear the train sounds on the soundtrack too, which I think is great. And she gives the quote, "What about me? Am I to be tossed aside?"
Yeah,
because like he's clearly not thinking about her like the whole time he's doing all this, you know. And I think like I don't know if like Ray's saying that's a good thing, or like he's obviously not saying it's a good thing, but. I don't know, maybe he's like...
It's a necessary thing, maybe.
Or maybe he's just become hardened to, like... I don't know. Like, maybe that's how he sees it. Yeah, it's a necessary thing. Yeah. There's a good shot of a... Actually, this is like kind of a dramatic scene in the movie, too, where they're talking, because she slaps him.
Yeah.
And you can tell maybe that there's something shifts where he's like, yeah, I'm definitely leaving, or something, you know, like... I don't know. There's like it's like a very dramatic moment, I guess, and he like runs. There's a great shot of him running with the. I call this I put this in my notes because it's a very similar shot to the shot in Tokyo Twilight that I love, where you basically have basically like a white frontlit area, and then in the background you have something dark. But then someone is silhouetted just.
I know what shot you're talking about. Tokyo Twilight.
Yes, I posted it on Twitter before.
Or just like she's like ghost or whatever.
Yes, and there's a very similar shot in this one too. I don't know. I just realized I kind of like that shot too. And it's like right after. It's almost like a kind of ghostly figure, basically. I don't know, because it's like right after he's run out of the room, and she's like, she basically just kind of appears barely as a silhouette in the background. And then she goes to him and she tells him like his mind is, she's like changed her mind, and she's willing to even give him money to go to. You can kind of tell like as much as she doesn't want him to, like this idea of like causing him pain like is not worth it almost. There's like we get some great shots of him helping him pack and stuff, and then the shot of her. There's also a great little moment of like. He's walking away to go to the train, and she's like smiling, but then the camera dollies closer, and like the smile just changes to a frown, and that's like how the scene ends.
Yeah.
Kind of just like, yeah, just like another little moment of like contrasting, even within the scene.
And it's a callback to the dad always leaving too.
Damn. Honestly,
like the mom's literally just always left behind.
Damn. Yeah. We see him like there's like the great shots of him in the city for the first time, where he's like just standing and he goes to like work at the Royal Press, where he gets a job.
He
like,
goes
after
for
school.
lodging, and then he's like, oh, I need a job or whatever. He's like, oh, you can, or how much is the rent or whatever, and he's like, oh, you can just work here and then live for free or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
He gets lucky there. I love just like the letter he writes to his mom, because it ends with you like kind of just take it for granted now, but when he says I have electric light in my room, it's like a huge deal, you know, like he has electricity for the first time. It's like hard to go back from that, you know. there's a scene of the teacher describing synecdoche. He's describing what that is, and that's where I think he's like falling asleep. Basically, we're showing like he's basically super busy. He's like obviously.
I can relate to this a lot, you know.
Having working on school,
Yeah. This is where his friend's trying to help him out, though.
Help him out, yeah.
Bulu, or is it Bulu or Pulu?
I think it's Pulu.
When you got like an 8 a.m. class after you like closed the night before, brother.
And you know they were working this guy hard as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, free lodging, man. You know they are.
No, but then him and his friend both get kicked out because the friend gets kicked out for trying to help him.
It's so funny.
And I do love these shots of them just like laying in the grass after. He's like, "Oh, we don't have anything to do, so let's just leave." And the friend is like basically telling him. Actually, this is kind of an important scene now that I'm thinking about it. In terms of what I'm going to mention at the ending about the mother dying, because the friend is like saying how he wants to travel to a different country, and then he's like, "Why don't you want to?" And he's like, "My mom will never let me." And like that's basically even though we've said he's still ignoring his mom in a way, he's still at least thinking about it to that degree where he's like he doesn't want to leave like to a different country or something. So he still feels tied down to some degree. But then he tells his friend, he's like, if I had no ambition, I would have stayed there though. So he's like, he's still trying to at least disagree with his friend that like he has no ambition, you know. But then we go to the it cuts back to the mother just in we get some shots of her basically it's supposed to show that she has nothing to do basically, kind of like we see her waiting by the train. She's like watching the train, waiting for her son to come back because I guess like he's like late from his vacation or something. He's supposed to, when he does arrive, he says he's like 2 days late, and she's like didn't expect him and stuff. There's like a great moment of like he after he does arrive, she's like asking him what he's seen in Calcutta, and he's like describing all the different buildings. And he mentions a lot of English buildings too, which I think is interesting. Like a lot of the buildings he mentions, like Victoria Memorial, the Hog Market, the zoo, like basically all these like new kind of things at the time, you know. And then like this is the scene I think we mentioned Pather Panchali where the father fell asleep while she was like mentioning her problems.
Yes.
It's like almost exact. It might be the same shot that I'm thinking about it.
I think it is almost the exact same shot.
Where she's like telling him how he's been getting sick. She's been getting sick.
Yeah.
Losing her appetite and stuff. She even says like, once you get money, will you like even pay for my?
Will you take care of me, basically?
It is kind of sad. Like he's like passed out. Like but then it cuts to like in the first. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's also kind of contrasting with the previous movie. Like in that movie, we kind of saw like this theater troupe come in, and we saw how excited Apu was to watch it. And in this scene, it cuts to this like play. I think it's like this show or something happening. But instead of like him being all excited, now he's like, we see him like super bored. He like walks away in the middle of it. And he's just like walking around, like he's like kicking stones, basically, like kind of show how bored he is. Basically showing like now that he's had this new experience of like the city life, all this stuff like it's like boring to him now.
Boring country life.
Yes, basically, yeah. There's a great sunrise shot too. We get some great ones.
Isn't the great sunrise shot the one after his mom doesn't wake him up in time for the train?
Yes.
Because this entire scene, I don't really know how to read it, honestly, because he gets like he obviously gets really mad at his mom for not waking him up in time. And the only reason he's leaving early is because he was already mad at her for something else, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I think this is a good moment of like Ray being like almost like showing like how emotions flow in daily life, where like we see it's kind of interesting how this happened, where you said the mom he just told the mom to wake him up.
Yeah. Then
we see the sunrise come, and like she's staring at him, like not wanting to wake him up clearly, and basically it's already been too late. Yeah. Like it's kind of implied, but then she's not gonna wake him up, and the only way he does wake up is she hits the door behind her, and the sound wakes him up, and he like says he's late. And he just runs out, basically, without even saying anything to her, because he's, like, late.
Yeah.
But then when he's at the train station, it's, like, this great moment. Like it's all visual, where he's just watching. We see the train coming, and then he just watches the train go by, because he's clearly thinking about what he just did. and then like instead of like taking the train, he just goes back to his mom and he tells her he just missed the train. He's gonna stay for another day.
Yeah,
it's like this great moment of
I know, like I don't know how to read it. Like to me, it's great. It's a great.
Well, because he's been telling her. He told her earlier. He's like, no, I can't miss any days of school. It's like you wouldn't understand how important it is. And then like him like taking that back. To me, it's just a sweet moment of him like at least being for one day more with his mom.
I think it is. I think it's definitely a sweet moment, and I think it's also like he does at least enjoy this country life a little bit.
Maybe more, yeah.
Because like he falls asleep.
Yeah.
Like he like the only like in the city he's obviously never like he's always sleeping in class. He's never allowed to sleep. This is supposed to be relaxing for him, or you're supposed or that's something you should like a vacation is supposed to be relaxing basically. And it seems like he's kind of accepted that at least at this moment, this is a moment that he can relax. This this last day with his mom. I don't know because it is basically his last day with his mom too.
Yeah, honestly,
but
it is. At least in our it is.
That's why I said I don't know how to read it though, because it's just like after this moment, he goes back to being kind of like just the same.
Yes,
back
yes.
like he had this moment of like reflection, but then he just like forgets about it almost.
I mean, I think that happens in life a lot.
That's true. It does happen in life a lot.
Especially, I think that's a good. I think this kind of dichotomy you're bringing is really interesting too. Like he has this moment that even my notes I say like it goes back to just. It's like literally a montage of the different classes he's taking and the experiments. Basically, like he's kind of forgotten his whole life.
He's back to the grind.
Yeah, exactly. And like the first letter he gets is from his mom is describing like how he hasn't written in 2 months to him. Like literally what you're saying. Like he's kind of already forgotten about it. That moment, maybe. And I also like that it's like maybe I don't know why he does it necessarily, but like when he reads the letter that she gave him. It's in her voice, like you can hear her voice. But when she reads his letters, you don't get his voice. It's only just her reading. I was like wondering why he does that too. Maybe it's like there's like an intimacy there, like why she where she's reading, where she's writing or something. But I'm not sure. Yeah, like it kind of is like cutting back and forth from them now, and
well, and the note is like really kind of sad that he writes back to because he's just basically just like I don't have enough time for you.
Yes, yeah, it's like I have no time with all my school and work and stuff. I mean, really, very realistic concerns what happen in life too as well, right? It's like it's hard to balance work and school and
relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently the book does have more of that, like his relationships in the city life. But I think in this movie it is kind of more about just the contrast between this kind of tension of like we've been talking about. This is the scene. Well, there's a scene where we're learning the mother's starting to get sick, and it's just like to me it's like another sad moment of just like what women are expected to do because. She's like basically telling this. She tells the neighbor not to tell the son that she's getting sick because she doesn't want to worry him and stuff.
He's too busy.
Yeah, exactly. Like basically, she still has to think about his perspective, before her own. But then, like, it cuts to this one where it's almost like being kind of mean, like with how like. It's like cruel just from like because he doesn't know what's going on, but just from like we're seeing it, it's like making him seem cruel because he's like it cuts back to him and he's like, it cuts to him like reading I think or something, and then his friend comes and he's like, oh I thought you were gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And he's like I just can't read when I'm there. Like you said, he's like I just fall asleep every time I'm back there.
Because I literally said at that moment, I was like, is that a bad thing? Like,
no, honestly, I don't
like
think
you need those moments every once in a while.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think his
because he's writing off like he's obviously trying to be an author too. Like we haven't really mentioned that too often, but in these moments he's obviously saying like he's obviously writing. He's trying to write his novels and shit. So and he can't do that in the country.
Yeah, I think that also ties us to maybe Apur Sansar, the next movie, in terms of like after the wife dies, and when he gives up his writing, when he just throws all his novels.
Yeah.
That's when he goes back and like he's like wandering into the country again, Maybe there's something to that too, where he just can't see the two as the same.
It's almost like in that moment, I think I don't want to call it regression, but because I don't know how to read that moment either, not per se. So I guess we'll get to it later. But
we'll get to it. But then it's like a really sad moment where she's like, basically this is like her death scene where she hears his voice. She thinks she hears his voice from like the voice she had heard earlier, but there's no one there. And she looks like at the empty door. And then it cuts to him reading the letter about his mother's sick. And then he arrives home. And now it's like the opposite. Now he's calling for her, and like he doesn't get her response. And he just sees his uncle staring, and then basically it's all implied at that point. Like the mother's gone, you know.
Yeah.
This kind of acceptance, and he just falls like this huge tree. Like he falls right into this huge tree. And that's when like this guy. I think that's when the uncle says I think you mentioned this quote earlier. He's like, "Parents don't stay with you forever. What had to happen happened." And he's like, "You'll earn your money as a priest."
Exactly. I left that part out.
No,
Because the uncle's still trying to get him to basically just like take up his dad's old job. So
yeah.
And this is his rejection of that life, obviously.
So based on this death, I wanted to read, because I mentioned this, I wanted to read Ray's quote on what he said about why he thought this death was so important. Let me read the quote first. Here's quote. "The growing tension between the two, the sullen looks, the curt exchanges, the scene of the mother hesitating to wake up the son on the day of his departure, all these will not be found in the book, but they are improvisations on an extraordinarily revealing statement of the author himself. On hearing of his mother's death, says the author, Apu's first reaction was one of relief, of a freedom from encumbrance. In my opinion, this daring and profound revelation, untranslatable in itself into pure filmic terms, justifies the dramatization of the mother and son's relationship. The heartlessness of Apu's part will not seem nearly as shocking when considered in the light of this revelation." I think that's that's how he's approaching it too. I think that's a good, even though this death is sad, why the movie's not sad, because it's it's basically about how almost like freedom requires death in a way. Like it's weird to put that in a mother-son context, but in a way, I think that's kind of like why it's less depressing in the movie as a whole for like normally a son.
Well, it's like Kurosawa kind of said about Pather Panchali, and why the grandma's death in that movie isn't very sad to me. Because, they just understand the way life goes, almost. Like, the mom kind of accepted the way life went for her at this last moment in her life, basically.
Yes.
Well, especially whenever she tells her friend, don't send the letter to my son. Don't tell him I'm getting worse. I don't want him to worry. She's basically accepted, this is what's going to happen.
Yes.
And this is what's sadly best for Apu in general. So
I'm glad you said that, because this is how I wanted to end this part of the Apu Trilogy. Is a quote from the author of the Failed Masculinities book I've been mentioning. She says, quote, "His estrangement from his mother culminates in her death before he can make time to meet her one last time, and this is tragic. But their lives were incompatible, and it would have been much worse for him to have been by her side, doing what she might have wanted him to do and becoming a priest like Harihar." I think that's a good, that's basically what you said. It was yes, this is a tragic, but if he had stayed and basically done what the mother wanted from the beginning, just become another priest, knowing what we know about him and his personality, that could have been way worse, you know? And to me, that's what makes Ray's movies honest at the same time as they're hopeful, because maybe in another movie, it would just show the hopeful part of going to the city, but not the honest part, you know? And I think that's what makes this movie so interesting too. But yeah, that's it basically ends the same way the first movie ends, with this house being left behind.
Yep.
Which now that I'm thinking about is kind of fun, kind of great too. But all right, that's it for Aparajito. We'll come back and do Apur Sansar. And we're back to talk about the last movie of the trilogy, Apur Sansar. What did we say this one was? 1959?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let me start with you, Blake, this time. What do you think about this one?
So, probably, whenever I first watched the trilogy, this was probably my second favorite after Aparajito. After watching them all again, I do think I like it a little bit less than the other two. I still think it's great. I do think the ending is a little bit much in terms of just Apu like maybe having this realization that he actually loves his son after seeing him a little too fast. I don't know.
I still like it.
But see, like I can kind of get why some people like it and why I might like it somewhat too. Just because like I think whenever he sees his son for the first time, he's like he sees also his wife again. Like that's a reading of it, and that's why he's like. That's another reason why he's probably been avoiding seeing his son. Is like he doesn't want to see, like obviously he doesn't want to see anything to do with his wife. Like I still don't love the ending as a whole, but I can see why it can connect with a lot of people. But I do like the first half of this movie quite a bit, actually. Like especially whenever it's just the dad or like this guy just falling in love essentially for the first time, like basically experiencing this side of life. I really like his relationship with his wife. I think it's really sweet. And I kind of love...
And then she gets fucking...
Exactly. And then she gets fucking just... Yeah, wrecked. Wrecked by the
Ray's got to do his thing
Wrecked by the script. But...
Well, I think this is all in the books, so...
It's just funny. Like, just like...
But it leads to this great moment of like what I said, like what we briefly mentioned on last time, like it's kind of like almost regression of this guy going back into the past of like basically becoming his own father and like just wandering around being like not this priest obviously because he's not a priest, he's just working random jobs, but he's just wandering around, you know. I don't know. I still don't know exactly how to read that. I don't know if exactly what Ray's trying to say there because whenever I see him like throwing the papers in the air of his worldly possessions, essentially he's letting them go. Usually that's a pretty good thing in my eyes, but in this movie I don't think it is. I don't know.
He's just like walking around being like mysterious and shit.
Exactly, like he's just walking around running away from his responsibilities essentially.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the big thing in this movie is like he's been wanting to be free this whole time. Like all three of these movies have been wanting to be free. He's got this free spirit. Life keeps on obviously trying to destroy him emotionally, but he still has this like joy in life that he says. But the more this movie goes on, it seems like he just realizes that's more and more not true, and is just running away from responsibilities that he doesn't realize are responsibilities yet, based on off of actions that he did in the past. I don't know. I do like this movie. Least favorite, I think, of the three, but still great. Love the actor that plays Apu, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
What's his name again?
Samatar Chatterjee.
Yeah, Chatterjee. Samatar Chatterjee. Because he's in a few of Ray's movies that we'll be doing, obviously. But
yeah.
I love his face.
Yes.
He's got a great face, like I said. I think at the very beginning of this podcast.
No, the way you described it earlier was great. What about you, Luke?
I really like... Yeah, I think this movie's still great. I like, the kind of what Blake was saying about like him like experiencing love, and honestly, the situation is it's like almost feels like a plot of some like rom-com.
It does.
Where honestly, it's like it's kind of funny.
Well, he even says that moment. He's like, "What is this, like a play or something?"
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he
does. Yeah. Like just like having like stumbled into this situation.
I also like it how it's like him stumbling on this like kind of village ancient tradition too. You know? And because he's been trying to avoid that, like as well, you know.
No, yeah. And then I guess like the second half, like kind of like the wandering aspect is really cool. And I still like the ending. Like I think it's just like a sweet ending. I don't know. Like, but yeah. I still think this movie's great.
Okay. No, it's funny. I think like, because normally I wouldn't. The way like if I were describing the love story, like the way they fall in love so fast and stuff, I would normally wouldn't like it. But I actually think it's like the best parts in the movie, and maybe some of the best of all the Ray trilogy. Of just like kind of watching them. But to me, like the first beginning of the movie and like the ending, I don't love as much. Like I was saying earlier, it kind of feels more like these kind of plot beats more than necessarily these kind of like moments of life. But no, I still really love this movie. Like I think it's kind of maybe the best looking one of the three. Maybe.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah.
As I'm going through the stills, like
I still probably would say Pather Panchali.
Okay. They all three look great.
No, yeah, that's like they're not like none of them are bad looking at all.
No, but I love like the different environments too. Of like, because this time when he goes back and it's not his own country, it's not his own home, village life, right? It's like a different place, and like you said, kind of getting stuck in this like kind of like rom-com almost scenario. But
yeah.
I also realized, like, just thinking about this movie, every one of them has like a death of like important woman in his life. So like in the first one it's the sister, the second one is the mom, and this one is the wife.
Oh yeah. Well, it's his mom and his dad in the second one.
Yeah, mom and basic parents, I guess.
But the women for sure,
yeah. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and get into it. It starts with.
He's like in his apartment, right?
Yeah. Now this is what I was saying earlier. It kind of mentions it shows like his environment first.
I do kind of love this apartment complex that he's in. I like the distinct characters that are in this apartment complex too. Like the other guy that shares his name, like his neighbor Ray or whatever. I don't know. I like that guy a lot, but and the landlord is pretty good.
The lady.
The landlord just being like so passive aggressive to him, and him just going back and with battling with words is just great this entire movie. But
actually, before we get the credits, we actually get a quick scene of him leaving college to go work, and the teacher's like disappointed because like you can already say this is like a twist from the last movie where he's like kind of into education, he's being educated and stuff, and this one he's leaving the teacher, and the teacher's like disappointed, but he's like, I have to go work now. And the teacher even tells him like, oh, you had some good stories about village life, you should write about that again.
Yeah, because he's obviously been writing for the college papers in this one. So.
Yeah.
Which I think we got hints at on the last movie.
Yeah. There's like a good shot of like, it kind of just reminds me of him with the sister when they were like happy in the rain, because we see him like in his apartment that's like beaten down. We see like the tears and stuff in the curtains. But then he goes outside and he's basically like just taking a bath in the rain, like, and he's like smiling. And I kind of mentioned like the author of the Failed Masculinities book, how she mentions the same thing, basically like comparing himself to like how he was in Pather Panchali and Aparajito going to the village, comparing that scenarios to how happy he seems to be in the city, even though like it doesn't seem much better like materially. He still seems really poor. Like you can tell he's just like. Just through the way Ray is showing the characterization is like he's this kind of he obviously enjoys like the city.
He's poor by his choice in this movie.
Yes, by freedom basically, as we've been talking about. And there's this great like you said, the landlords come and like asking for the rent and stuff.
It's so funny.
He's like, you have these posters of all these great men on your wall, like, but you can't pay your rent. And he's like, maybe that's a sign of greatness.
That's a sign of greatness too. He's like, I can't win a battle wars with you, but if you don't have the money by the end of the night, the electricity is turned off or something like that.
Yeah.
I think he turns off the lights as he goes out too.
No, but then actually we're gonna see this theme play out a lot more in the two movies in the Calcutta trilogy we do. But there's these great little moments of him going to basically trying to get hired for a job, and he can't because he's overqualified. Like the teacher, he like where the teacher is like he's like I don't know what the kind of degree.
It's like a master something degree.
I forgot what he says.
I can't remember what degree he has. I remember the degree they want though.
He's like we're looking for this degree. And he's like, well, I have this degree. And he's like, did you not just hear me?
He's like, we're looking for an.
It would basically, let's compare it to bachelor's and master's.
Yeah.
Because he's like, we're looking for a bachelor's degree, and he's like, I have a master's degree, and he's like, did you not hear me? We're looking for a bachelor's degree.
But the wordplay is so funny because he's like, we're looking. I think the degree they're looking for is like an intermediate degree. He's like, if you have this degree, why would you be looking for to be paid like an intermediate, like an idiot, like intermediate?
Yeah. Damn,
and then they just all start laughing. But
no, because basically the point the teacher's making is like, would you only work for? He says 10 rupees.
Yeah.
Basically saying like he's too overqualified, and there's like you wouldn't be willing to do this job kind of thing. So then he goes to a pharmaceutical plant, and I forget what the job title is. They say labeling, I think.
Yeah, labeling.
But they don't. He doesn't know what exactly it is.
He's like, can you do labeling?
And he's like, yeah. Well, he's like, no, I've never done it before, but I can learn. and then he goes and sees what the job actually is, and it's just like this repetitive labeling of the pills, I guess they're doing. And
I have no idea what they're doing in there.
It looks like some pill, like they must be labeling some kind of.
It just looked like a factory line to me.
But it's not a factory.
No, it's not a factory.
Because it's all just like hand labor, but.
Well, factory lines are hand labor.
Okay, yes, but there's no factory. No, there's no machine. There was no machine, I don't think. But then we get the shot of him, like, even though he's basically been rejected, he's still, like, kind of happy. Like, there's, like, this great sunset shot of the bridge, behind the bridge, as he's walking. We're going to see that, like, same area a few times he's going to come back to. And there's also, we mentioned, Luke read the Renoir quote of, like, ending on a painting. There's this great shot of, like, he's like this like girl's like we see this like it's like girl like who's like watching him like across the window in like a silhouette, and he's like trying to close the window with his flute, but he closes the window and then he starts playing it, and I just love the way the shot ends because like he starts playing the flute and then the camera kind of just dollies out and it shows like him in his room just like playing the flute.
Right before
the friend comes over. Yeah, I think honestly I always love a good movie where a friend just comes over and like has a conversation. Like I mentioned this with Brisson does it a few times. Like Brisson's always like so weird what they're talking about and shit. But I always love that. I think this is where they're like we're kind of learning how like wandering this guy is because the friend is like implying that he just left without telling anyone from his old.
So it took me forever to find you.
And this is where he's like as they're walking and stuff, he's like telling his friend. He's a man with no responsibilities. Like, why would he be a clerk just for no reason and stuff?
This is where he's telling him about his his fictional book he's been writing, and whenever he starts describing it, Palou says, "This is an autobiography." And he's like, "No, not exactly. There are fictional characters. There's love."
I wrote the quote down. It's like, he questions everything. He questions everything. Yet he has imagination and sensitivity. Little things move him and bring him joy. Perhaps he has greatness in him, the ability to create. But he... And then the friend's like, oh, but he's not. He doesn't make it, doesn't he? He's like, yes, that's right, but it doesn't end there. It's not a tragedy. He does nothing great. He remains poor and want, but he never turns away from life. He doesn't run away. He wants to live. He says living itself brings fulfillment and joy. He wants to live. Honestly, I think this is a good like kind of moment of like, basically having him say this before all the stuff that's about to happen.
Yes, exactly.
Is, interesting too.
Well, especially whenever you realize he almost commits suicide in the movie too. So
yeah. He's still hopeful at this moment anyway.
Yeah.
But also, I guess it kind of shows that this kind of hope at the end is still in this guy too.
Yeah. This is kind of who he is. He's a romantic.
And I guess like this is kind of also foreshadowing where he's like, you don't have any experience with love. Like, what can you say about that? And he's like, imagination isn't worth nothing. He's like, not with love. And he's like,
does one have to love to write about it?
Yeah.
Or something like that. So fucking funny.
Basically saying that, like, basically not knowing what's about to happen, basically, which is this next scene of like him going to the cousin, basically agreeing to go with his friend to his cousin's wedding. He thinks just as a spectator.
Originally just as a spectator.
Honestly, it's funny because I think he just like sleeps through a lot of like the actual ceremonies and stuff. Like it shows him on the banks just like sleeping while it's like all this stuff is going on.
Well, does he know he's the main character?
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna get just like swept up into it. Also, we see Sharmila Tagore for the first time. She'll also come back in some Ray movies.
Oh shit! Yeah.
She's in Days and Nights in the Forest.
Hero.
Yeah, she's the hero.
Okay,
yes.
I remember those.
Yeah, she's in the hero. I don't know if we're doing the hero yet. But then we basically learned that after some of these wedding scenes and kind of introducing them to us, that like after the groom arrives,
he's like insane.
He's basically mentally ill, and like that's something apparently both the men and the family have been hiding. Because first, like, the father's, basically the dad of this groom, he's like, oh, no, he's just, it's just from the long travel. It's just from the long travel, he's fine. And then it's just crazy also, because, like, when the wife, when the mother of the daughter is basically, like, yelling at the father, saying, there's no way I'm going to let her marry him, he's like, oh, no, he says the same thing. He's like, oh, no, he's just, it's just heat stroke and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like Ray's just obviously making a point there of like what some of the men are like, how they see women basically, of like they're just a rich family, so they're trying to marry to a rich family no matter what. And I think that's also interesting where the mother's the one also saying like she's not going to allow it to happen. And it's that also makes it kind of like you never get this father's perspective, but the fact that because like this ancient tradition of the auspicious hour where she has to marry within this time where she can never get married apparently, all of a sudden there's like an on the clock like Luke's at a rom-com situation of like now that she has to get married on the clock. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's funny, like she goes from marrying this rich guy to like this guy to Apu, who basically we've seen has no money, like no prospects so far. It kind of just makes it interesting from that account too.
Yeah, and he's the one telling his wife that he's the one that got forced into, which technically he did, but
it's like they both did. Yeah,
he got guilted into it, but I think we do get the dad of this daughter's.
Actually, that is true. Because he still had the choice. He still had the choice.
Well, we get his perspective at the very least, at the very end. It's because he's the uncle or he's the one looking after the kid at the end, but because he's basically just saying like I didn't want to give my daughter to you.
Yeah. And at that point, he's definitely right. Like, you know, like.
But she would have given her to this like mentally insane man. Like,
also,
come on, you still have the choice in this. Come on, dude. Like,
you can't blame him for like what he's seen. This guy basically abandoned his son. For
exactly.
5 years.
Like you can't blame him for having the reaction, but
at the same time, it's like who are you about to give your daughter?
Exactly.
So that is a good point. Honestly.
At the same time, you're the one that started all this.
Basically, the Ray men never look great in his movies for the most part. But then we get like the wedding. We get the wedding and the wedding night where they have this conversation, like you're saying, how she's like, he's basically not thinking about the idea. Like she was actually
she's literally
no
trapped
choice.
in this. Like
at least he had the kind of choice in the moment. And he's like, the request was made that I felt I was doing something noble, but now I feel like now he's like, I don't know, because he's basically he's like seeing all the room that she basically she grew up in a rich environment. And he's like, I don't know
is thinking of her in this moment at the very least.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know if I can live up to this kind of way you're used to living. But I love the music when they first arrive in the city together, and like the kind of moments too of them arriving.
So it's kind of like it's like she's like all dressed up and kind of like she's like going to like high class society, and it's like in this like.
This like
dusty ass apartment.
Yes. And I love him hiding it as long as possible too, because he knows everyone's gonna freak out the second he comes home. Like he actually makes this point where he's like, "I'm invited to a wedding. And I come home with the bride. Like, what are people gonna say?
What are my neighbors gonna say?"
Which is actually a great point. Too.
Yeah.
Because like he probably just told me.
Well, it's hilarious because his downstairs neighbor that shares the last name as him asked him earlier about like the letters he's received. He's like, "Oh, I wish that you got like love letters because at least I get something spicy to read or something like that."
Yeah, and he's like, but then he says the exact opposite. He's like, "I'll hold it off as long as possible."
Exactly.
No, but I love him like the way they're like sneaking past like really quietly. You know, like there's like a shot of just the baby seeing them.
There's a shot of just the woman also, like...
she's turned around, though.
Yeah, turned around. I think she, like, glances over her shoulder for, like, a split second.
She doesn't see him with that.
I don't think she sees him, but she hears him.
She hears him coming back. I don't think she's not thinking, like, oh, there's a woman with him.
Who knows?
But there is, like, a great kind of just, like, sad shot of her thinking. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly what's going through her head. You can kind of imply based on what the shots he shows of, like... She's on the window still thinking, and you can tell she's clearly sad. Like she just like basically left her old life.
And the window still looks like a jail cell. So.
Okay, yeah, also true.
I mean, it just has bars.
It has the kind of bars. I don't know if he's making that point because the windows will just have those.
Exactly.
But anyway, like she's like basically looking through. Like clearly, we're supposed to think she's sad, but then we see like she's watching a baby. Like crying, kind of crawling, and you can almost be like, now maybe she's thinking about the new life she's going to build here instead, you know, or something. And like, it kind of makes you think of both in that same moment, which I thought was great.
She does start crying, but or sheds a tear.
Yeah, she does.
Before getting introduced to everyone in the freaking apartment complex. The shot of them just at the bottom of the stairs with them at the top is hilarious.
Yes. I love it's this the way the lady says "oh my."
Oh my.
Oh my. Like I can't say exactly, but it's always stuck in my head the way she says it.
It's great.
And all the kids are like basically stunned, like
Like,
Sky
you
Has a Life.
definitely outkicked your coverage. Man. Oh my god.
But then we basically get some of these moments of like basically a montage of them kind of falling in love, but like basically through like maybe little moments you could say of like he's like I think he opens a cigarette box and like there's like a note saying like you promise to only smoke one
day.
half a
She
day.
kind of just like walks in like with the lifestyle.
Yeah. There's also there's like a good moment of like you could say like oh of course like it's a patriarchal thing where like she's fanning him while he's eating. It's also a great shot too because like the dolly pans forward while she's fanning him and then it cuts like on the same fan but it pans out or dolly's out and he's fanning her while she's eating too. And then like we kind of get them of like going to the movie theater. I kind of love this. I love this like shot too, where they're watching this. It's a very similar to the theater troupe. It might be a very similar story, honestly. Now I think about it, of like we're watching this on screen of something with Lord Vishnu. I don't even know exactly what the story is, but like they're watching this kind of like very dramatic movie, and you can tell he's like bored. He's like laughing about it, and then he turns to her and she's like super invested in it, and you can tell he's like disappointed that she's like invested in it. I think it's like a funny moment.
You get that crazy transition.
The transition is my favorite in the movie, I think.
The transition,
because it goes from you're watching the movie and then he just like pulls out. It's like zooms
transitions
out
to like it's
to the inside of the car, and you just see her face and then the window of the car right there, or of the carriage,
and she's like thinking,
and she's thinking,
and this
is whenever he starts rizzing her up with some lines about like, I only think of you and shit, but I don't know.
Well, because she's sad that they're taking the carriage. She's basically thinking about why they're in a carriage.
Yeah, it costs
like,
too much money.
Yeah, because he's like, you deserve a carriage. You don't deserve a bus. And she's obviously thinking about the money. Like, the bus is way cheaper. And that's what he said, where he's like, you don't know what a wife means, only I do. Like, but then, like, we learn, like, this is basically going to be the last time. Like, basically, if something really good is happening with one of the characters in him, like you said, they're not.
Better get ready, buddy.
We find out in this scene that she's about to go to her mom's house. So we
don't
don't even know she's pregnant.
No, I think we do.
Do we?
I think she wants to have the kid.
Okay,
it's something like that. I'm pretty sure.
Because I was like, I didn't remember that she died of pregnancy.
No, but then we learn like he's working like as a typewriter, like basically as a clerk. Yes. What he said he was never going to do, right? But now he, like, obviously, like, being
he's
married
trying to provide.
Yes, basically. And this guy comes up. This is like another like kind of weird, creepy guy in a Ray movie where this guy who like he first he sees him work and he's like how are you happy and married in such these hard times on a clerk's salary? And he's like, I can just tell that you're happy. Because after he asks, how do you know? He's like, I can just tell you're happy. And he's like, I don't know what your wife is like, but I like my women a little feisty. I like them to be a little quarrelsome, a little saucy. You know what I mean? I like a little bit of mischievous and smart. That's spice to a marriage. And he's like, my wife is just the opposite. It never quarrels.
Tell her to turn right, she turns right. Tell her to turn left, she turns left.
And the way he's saying this in English, too, just makes it so funny. Because, like, just like you just have to think about him not saying this in his primary language too. So
he doesn't want anyone to hear this shit.
Because like he says, utterly bland. Calling your wife utterly bland and insipid is so crazy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of middle-aged men that feel that way about their wife. Just the way he says it, dude, is just so crazy. I'm like, damn, it like feels so random, dude. That's what makes it so like. That's what makes it feel like just like a normal moment in an office or something. Like you can tell Ray works in office.
Yes, he did like gives off like the random coworker that's like does random shit.
Yes,
like
exactly.
what the fuck?
And like the creepy
about?
Random coworker.
Yeah,
like doesn't have internet or anything.
Yeah, it's those random like music artists they listen to or like random movie they love. Like
okay, but that one's not as bad. It's just like creepy. Like it'll be like creepy too. Like more like
I like my women feisty.
Like, okay, brother.
Especially the way they talk about other women that aren't their wives.
All right, brother.
Yeah, but then like
they start right. We get letters from both of them like a lot.
Well, she gets like a letter like saying she's like starting to feel sick or whatever or something. Like, or she had the baby or something and she's like feeling bad or something.
No, because she dies in childbirth. So
she doesn't. No,
but she writes the letter though.
She writes a few letters. They write a few letters.
She's like mad that he only wrote 7 letters instead of 8, and like it's like a great shot of him like smiling on the train where this guy's like
Trying to read his letter.
Yeah, trying to read his letter and stuff.
Yeah.
No, but it's basically right after that where she dies, and the way he learns is like this family member coming to tell him, and like the way he reacts is just so. I think it's just so makes it.
The shots are amazing because it's just he lays down in bed and then like just transitions.
Remember,
to,
he punches this guy too. Like basically, like you can't help but blame the messenger. You know, like he gets so like you can tell he gets angry more than anything, and then he just like punches the guy and goes and closes his door. And then like the way the time change is shown is like it cuts to him sleeping without a beard, and it dollies back out after a cut to him with a beard now
in the same position.
Same position. I have in my notes is also these like the great shots of him in the mirror with these like deep blacks and stuff, kind of like showing like basically how depressed he is now, obviously. This is the almost suicide scene, which I'd kind of forgotten about too. It kind of happened so suddenly. Like it is like it's almost like I guess a miracle that this pig dies, because I think that's what stops him. Like he's like thinking in front of the train, and then all of a sudden like we hear this commotion because this pig gets hit by the train like right in front of him. You could say like taking the hit for him, I guess. And that's when he like writes his friend that he doesn't know where he's going. He's just like leaving.
He says that I think this in this letter he actually says that he feels some amount of guilt because whenever he first got the letter from his wife that she passed, he felt like free or something because he can actually just wander around and do nothing. But I can't remember if that's in this letter they wrote. But
yeah, I think it might be. I didn't write the whole letter down. It also is a great shot. Like that's why I'm not sure if him throwing these letters or this novel he's writing is it supposed to be seen as good or not.
Yeah,
because it's almost like the way he's shooting is like positive. You know, like normally a character would have this realization where like he's seen the sunrise after this moment of like he's leaving. The sunrise is coming. There's also a great reverse shot where he's looking at the sun and you see like the moon still behind him.
Yes, I love that shot.
But like, and then all of a sudden he just throws all his like novel that he's been working on.
Well, it's like this is a very like I mean I'm assuming he's Hindu, but like just this like sitting atop a mountain at sunrise and getting rid of your worldly possessions basically is supposed to be a good thing. But in this, I don't know how I feel about it because it's just like. It feels like he's regressing at this moment.
Especially since he's ditching his son.
Yes, exactly.
Like, and we'll literally do this instead of going to therapy.
Basically. They'll literally wander around India instead of going to therapy.
But then it cuts to seeing like upbeat music and we see the son for the first time wearing a mask as he's just like playing around. And then we learn like the friend is coming to see... Basically learn.
Try to find where Apu is.
And we're learning like how he hasn't been there in 5 years.
He's only sending money every once in a while.
This is another kind of I don't know how to describe them, like subtle time jumps. Like there's nothing like there's not like a fucking Russo brothers like title card.
6 years later,
time is a fucking time jump. But
it's
you
like
just
dramatic.
Get it. You see like a kid that's like you're supposed to. He's hoping like not hoping. He trusts his audience enough to pay attention to where, like, if in the previous scene, this guy had a son that was just born, and his wife died. If you see a little kid that's 5 years old, if you see a little kid that's 5 years old, that's supposed to be the same son, you know, and it's been 5 years. Like, that's basically our
acting very similar to how Apu acted in Pather Panchali.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And actually, because we see him. I even have my notes where someone gets mad at him for stealing.
Yeah,
it's actually shot very similar to how the girl is shot at the beginning of the Pather Panchali too, with some of that stuff. I think he drops like a dead bird on her.
He's just the old lady pranks. He's just pulling pranks on her. Yeah.
And then they get mad at stealing at your age and stuff, and that of course reminds you of the sister and stuff. But then, like, I think it's implied that he's just been nearby, I guess, for the last year or something. I forget how the
dad
doesn't
know. Well, the
how
dad,
does the friend
the
run
dad,
into
the uncle of the kid that he's taking care of. Yeah. He just basically tells him where the letters are getting sent from.
Oh, that's.
And he tells him he's a coworker in some random village or some shit. Yes.
Yeah. No, but the way he finds them, he's just like wandering around at this.
Yes.
This Yeah, it's like honestly, it's like it's just this middle of nature place. It's like there's no like clear reference point.
It's like a village, or it's just like this like random village. That
but the way the place they're talking too. Is like,
yeah.
But then he says he's like thinking about going abroad because he has no one here. And it's funny because the friend like mentions his son's name. He says, I think the son's name is Kajal.
Yeah.
And he's like, who's Kajal? Which is like crazy. He doesn't even know his son's name.
Well, he says,
and he's like, for me, he's unreal.
Exactly.
Imaginary, doesn't exist. And obviously, like you're saying, it's implied. Like every time he's thinking about it, he's thinking about his wife that died.
Well, it's also just crazy that you can just say that. Well, I mean, it's not crazy that you can say that because people do this all the time. Like,
well, I think,
if I just ignore them, they're not there. Like, they just don't. They literally don't exist to me. But
True.
And to a certain degree, you can actually live long periods of your life like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this is what he's done for 5 years already. I think that's what makes this like I don't know. I'm just talking about it now. Maybe the ending makes it a little better in terms of like we've said, like he hasn't literally seen his son for 5 years, so maybe that's the only reason he's been able to do this. Because like the second he does see his son, like everything changes, like literally from the first moment.
It's like I don't 100% buy that, but I can buy it. And
it's not like I don't buy it. It's maybe like the way he kind of hangs. I don't know. It's like a little, like I said, like I don't like the sensationalist stuff as much, but I don't know. It's still a good ending, like especially when he sees like the realization that this father is basically hitting his son, you know?
Yeah.
Like when he's like the son is doing something, he's like about to hit him, and that's when he stops him, and he's like he has this realization.
It's like you should kill him.
Yeah. And like we get these moments of him like trying to get the son to come
with him.
Come with him.
Why is his son kind of dapper though too? He's got the like jacket on him.
I mean, he's been living. It's implied that it's a more richer society. He's growing.
Guess, yeah.
That's actually another thing that I'm just thinking right now. Like maybe that's why he wants the son to stay there. You know, like
he's at least provided for
by a richer family, like, instead of like a poor, like he would have lived in a poor environment.
Look at this.
Yeah, he does.
Button over real quick. He's got like
even his hair.
He's putting that shit on. Shit.
He is.
No, that's like Lucas showing us basically this last kind of the foreground background shot of because this is another thing I like these little subtle moments of even in this last moment he wants the son to decide for himself if he's going to go with him, because even the father or the uncle is like just
like
he's
a child.
He's a child, just force him to come with you, it's not a big deal. And he's like, I love that where he's like, no, it has to be his choice too. Because like that's been his whole thing, right? It's like freedom or independence of himself. So like this kind of like hopeful, like you think he's leaving by himself, and then the son is kind of just following in the distance. And it's kind of interesting because why does he tell him like he does run towards him, but why does he say he's his friend instead of his father?
Because his son doesn't believe he's his father. He won't believe.
So that's why
anyway.
you think he's like, I'm your friend. Because like
eventually, it ends in a way that makes me think it's gonna be happy, but like eventually he's gonna come to accept that he is his father, obviously, but because the kid obviously has a lot of thinking to do also because he hasn't seen his dad for 5-6 years. Never met him before. Now he's just going away with him.
But yeah, that's basically how the movie ends. As they walk off.
Isn't there a freeze frame on their faces?
Does it freeze frame?
Does it not freeze frame? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Or is it just them? It just ends on them walking, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it just ends on them walking.
Yeah, the freeze frame is next week.
Yes.
The freeze frame.
The freeze.
Well, actually, I don't know about the freeze because there is like some other iconic freeze frames, but it's one of the freeze frames. You know what I mean?
Yes. To end this episode, though, I wanted to, I guess, in this quote I'm about to read, he mentions the word universal pattern, and I think that's kind of what I was talking about in terms of like when Ray does detach in these movies with the music and kind of like this overall, basic theme of the whole of all three movies instead of just like the characters in the movies, is that universal pattern. So let me read this quote that I really loved. I forgot what essay he writes this in. But let me read the quote. He says, quote, "My own city of Calcutta, too, I know much better now that I've made a film about it. It isn't quite like any other city in the world to look at. Yet people are born here and live and make love and earn bread as they do in London and New York and Tokyo. And this is what amazes you most. It makes you feel indebted to the cinema. This discovery that although you have roots here, in Bengal, in India, you are at the same time part of a large plan, a universal pattern. This uniqueness and thus universality and the coexistence of the two is what I mainly try to convey through my films. I love that, and I think like that's what I'm basically gonna. That's definitely a theme you see throughout all of his movies, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Apu Trilogy. That's it for this week. And next week we'll start with we'll do Charulata in the big city. In opposite order, I think. I forgot the. Damn, I'm so bad with years and shit.
Well, Charlotte's 60s, right?
Yeah, Big City
They're
came out
both
first.
60s, right?
63 and 64, back-to-back years. Big City was first.
Okay.
It was confusing because timeline-wise, it's the other way around.
What do you mean, like timeline?
Like Charlotte's time period is first.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I remember Big City being one of my favorites from Ray, so I'm excited to watch it again.
I think Charlotte was my favorite from Ray.
It's definitely my favorite, it's one of my favorites.
Damn.
But yeah, until next week, hope to see you floating through the clouds.